Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto's Omnitrix was filled with God tier, mythical A. Nemal aliens Naruto x Kai Green, Ben 10. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Celestial Convergence. A finger of lightning split the midnight sky, illuminating the ancient stone chamber hidden deep within the Sage Mountains. Naruto Uzumaki crouched beside weathered inscriptions, his shadow dancing across hieroglyphs that had remained untouched for centuries. Unlike the brash, impulsive boy he'd once been, years of combat and loss had tempered him into something harder. More focused, a blade sharpened by adversity rather than dulled by it. "You're sure this is the place, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto traced the spiral pattern etched into the central altar, feeling an inexplicable resonance with the symbol that mirrored the one on his abdomen. "These markings aren't like anything in our scrolls." The silver-haired Jonin materialized from the shadows, his visible eye narrowed in concentration. "The energy signature matches what Lady Tsunade detected 3 days ago. Whatever caused those atmospheric disturbances originated here." Naruto nodded, analyzing the chamber with critical eyes. The mission parameters had been clear: investigate the anomalous chakra spikes disrupting weather patterns throughout the Land of Fire. What hadn't been clear was why he specifically had been requested, especially when Anbu would typically handle unknown phenomena. The chamber told its own story through Silent Stone, a circular room with 12 equidistant pillars, each carved with creatures Naruto had never encountered in any bestiary. A dragon coiled around one, its scales so meticulously rendered he half expected them to reflect the torchlight. A massive wolf snarled from another, chains binding its form yet seemingly straining against their confinement. "These aren't normal summons," Naruto murmured, instincts honed from countless missions raising alarms throughout his body. "They feel older, more primal." Kakashi didn't respond immediately, his attention fixed on the chamber's ceiling where constellations unknown to any Fire Country astronomer spiraled in gold and silver inlay. "I've sent Pakun to report our findings. Whatever this place is, it's far beyond the age of the hidden villages." A tremor shook the mountain, dislodging ancient dust own crevices untouched by human hands for millennia. The vibration intensified, focused inexplicably on the central altar where Naruto stood. "Naruto, move back." Kakashi's warning came too late. The stone beneath Naruto's palm heated suddenly, the spiral pattern igniting with chakra unlike anything he'd encountered. Not the corrosive red of the Nine Tails, nor the natural energy of Sage Mode. This power felt primordial, as though he'd touched the foundation of creation itself. A column of light erupted from the altar, engulfing Naruto's form. Within that impossible brilliance, something realized. A device that hovered momentarily before him, rotating slowly to reveal intricate mechanisms that seemed to shift between physical reality and something more ephemeral. It resembled a bracer of polished obsidian inlaid with symbols matching the chamber's pillars. At its center, a dial displayed the snarling wolf he'd observed earlier. Time slowed. Kakashi's voice became distant, distorted. Some instinct deeper than training, deeper even than the Nine Tails' presence, compelled Naruto forward. His fingers closed around the device. Reality fractured. For one eternal moment, Naruto existed everywhere and nowhere, witness to cosmic dragons swimming through the void between stars, massive wolves whose howls birthed winter, serpents large enough to encircle worlds. Beings of myth and nightmare regarded him with ancient intelligence before the kaleidoscope shattered. Naruto crashed back to physical awareness, gasping, the bracer now firmly clasped around his left forearm. Its weight felt negligible, yet its presence dominated his senses like nothing he'd experienced since first containing the Nine Tails. Naruto. Kakashi's voice penetrated his disorientation. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." The words came automatically as Naruto examined the device. It had seamlessly bonded to his arm, its material neither metal nor stone but something that seemed to pulse with its own life. "But something's changed. I can feel it." Before Kakashi could respond, another tremor shook the chamber, more violent than before. Cracks spider-webbed across the ancient ceiling. "We need to leave," Kakashi stated, already moving toward the entrance. "Whatever was contained here has been released, or activated." Naruto followed, but hesitated at the threshold, compelled by something he couldn't name to look back at the 12 pillars. For an instant, he could have sworn the carved creatures moved, watching him depart with expressions of both anticipation and warning. Outside, the mountain path had transformed. What had been clear skies during their ascent now roiled with unnatural storm clouds, concentric circles of lightning spinning inward toward a focal point directly above the chamber they'd just abandoned. This isn't natural, Naruto observed, calculating escape routes as the mountainside began to crumble. The strange bracer pulsed against his skin, its central dial shifting to display the coiled dragon he'd seen earlier. Kakashi-sensei, get to safety. I'll try to stabilize whatever's happening. Naruto's voice carried the quiet confidence that had replaced his childhood boasting, the certainty of a shinobi who had faced gods and demons and emerged standing. That's not the plan, Kakashi began, but years of partnership had taught him when Naruto's mind was set. 2 minutes. Then we both retreat, understood. Naruto nodded, already examining the bracer. Intuition rather than knowledge guided his fingers to the dial, which depressed with surprising ease. The transformation was instantaneous. Chakra unlike anything he'd channeled before flooded his system, restructuring muscle and bone. His perspective shifted dramatically upward as his body elongated, serpentine yet powerful. Azure scales replaced skin, iridescent in the storm light. Whiskers became actual sensory organs, detecting changes in air pressure and electrical fields with hyperacute precision. When Naruto spoke, his voice resonated with harmonic overtones that seemed to calm the very air. Ryujin, he named himself, the knowledge appearing in his mind unbidden. Kakashi stared upward, visible eye widened in shock. Naruto, I am still myself, Naruto replied, though he understood Kakashi's disbelief. He had become a dragon of legend, not a summoning technique or transformation jutsu, but an actual embodiment of the mythic Ryujin, dragon god of the seas and storms. Instinctively, Naruto's Ryujin ascended toward the storm's epicenter. Water vapor condensed around his serpentine form, responding to his mere presence. The storm, he realized with newfound senses, wasn't merely weather, it was a rupture between dimensions, a wound in reality itself. Drawing upon knowledge that belonged to Ryujin rather than Naruto, he began weaving through the storm's structure, his body conducting and redirecting the elemental energies. Massive clouds responded to his movements as though he conducted an orchestra. Lightning arcing between his azure scales without harm. Far below, Kakashi watched in astonishment as the kilometer-long dragon that had been his former student systematically unraveled the apocalyptic storm, coiling through cloud formations with impossible grace. The rupture began to close, reality knitting itself together under Naruto's ministrations. Yet as the dimensional tier sealed, someone, slipped through. A figure plummeted from the closing rift, unconscious or disoriented. Without hesitation, Naruto dove, streamlining his massive form to intercept the falling shape. Wind howled past his scales as he calculated trajectory with inhuman precision, positioning himself beneath the figure moments before impact. The young woman landed on his broad head, saved from certain death by his intervention. Dark hair with reddish highlights whipped around an unconscious face that bore no shinobi headband or recognizable clan markings. Her clothing was equally foreign, practical yet unlike any fashion in the 5 great nations. With the rift sealed and the immediate danger neutralized, Naruto descended carefully toward where Kakashi waited. The transformation released as his clawed feet touched earth, azure scales dissolving into light as he returned to human form. The unconscious woman remained in his arms, her breathing shallow but steady. That, Kakashi stated with impressive understatement, was not a standard transformation technique. Naruto nodded, equally stunned despite having experienced the change firsthand. I was Ryujin, not an illusion or chakra construct. I actually became the dragon god. And acquired a passenger. Kakashi gestured to the unconscious woman. Who doesn't appear to be from around here? Before Naruto could respond, the bracer pulsed again, its symbols rearranging into patterns he couldn't decipher. The woman stirred, eyes fluttering open to reveal intelligent brown irises that immediately sharpened with alertness. The Nexus dial, she gasped, focusing instantly on the device adorning Naruto's wrist. Her accent was strange, not quite foreign, but with cadences and inflect. Ion's no dialect in the elemental nations possessed. You activated it. That's impossible. In a fluid motion belying her apparent disorientation, she extracted herself from Naruto's arms, dropping into a defensive stance that spoke of extensive combat training. Who are you? How did you interface with the dial? Are you working with the Chronosapiens? Naruto raised his hands, palms outward. In the universal gesture of non-aggression. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, shinobi of Konohagakure. I don't know what a Chronosapien is, and I found this device, this Nexus dial, in an ancient chamber inside the mountain. The woman's eyes narrowed, suspicion warring with scientific curiosity. That's not possible. The Nexus dial was created by Azimuth as a theoretical prototype, never constructed. It exists only in quantum possibility space. Quote, yet here it is, Kakashi interjected calmly. Attached to my former student's arm and apparently transforming him into creatures of myth. Perhaps introductions are in order. Since you seem to know what we're dealing with. The standoff lingered a moment longer before the woman relaxed marginally, though her eyes never left the dial. Kai Green. I'm an archaeologist specializing in cross-cultural mythological artifacts and other things that most people in my dimension consider theoretical. Your dimension? Naruto questioned, processing the implications. The nine tails stirred within him, uncharacteristically attentive to the conversation. Kit, this woman speaks truth. She carries the scent of another reality. Kai's expression became calculating. You just transformed into Ryujin, the dragon god of Shinto mythology, using a device that shouldn't exist, and you're questioning dimensional travel. Yes, another dimension, another universe entirely, with its own physical laws and evolutionary history. Which explains why I've never seen clothing like yours, Naruto observed, earning a slightly surprised look from Kai. What? I'm not just muscle. 7 years as an active duty shinobi teaches you to notice details. Most people fixate on the other dimension part, not my fashion choices, Kai replied, a hint of humor briefly lightening her intensity. But yes, different world, different textile development. Her focus returned to the dial. What matters is that device is dangerous beyond your comprehension. It's designed to access the genetic templates of what your mythology would call gods, beings that exist across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Kakashi's posture shifted subtly, preparing for potential conflict. And you came through that storm specifically looking for it? Not exactly. Kai rubbed her temples, frustration evident. I was investigating dimensional anomalies detected by Plummer. That's an organization. Not a profession. Sensors. The readings suggested a convergence point was forming here, a place where multiple realities temporarily align. I didn't expect to find the theoretical Nexus dial actually manifested, much less bonded to someone. The mountainside rumbled again, reminding them of their precarious position. Massive sections of stone had sheared away during the storm, leaving their current perch dangerously unstable. We should continue this conversation somewhere safer, Naruto suggested, assessing the geological damage with a quick glance. Unless you have a way back to your dimension immediately. Kai's expression tightened. My dimensional transporter was damaged in transit. I'll need time and resources to repair it, neither of which we'll have if this mountain collapses on us. Then you're coming with us to Konoha, Kakashi decided. Lady Tsunade will want to hear about this development firsthand, and we can provide shelter while you make repairs. Naruto expected resistance from the dimensional traveler, but Kai merely nodded after a moment's calculation. Logical. I need to study the dial anyway, and it's clearly bonded to him. She gestured toward Naruto. Besides, the dimensional alignment that brought me here suggests your world is at the nexus of whatever cosmic event is unfolding. I might as well be at ground zero. The journey back to Konoha proved illuminating. Kai adjusted to tree hopping with surprising adaptability after initial skepticism. You actually travel by jumping through trees. Environmentally friendly, I suppose. Her analytical mind processed the shinobi world with scientific detachment tempered by genuine curiosity. So chakra is this world's fundamental energy system, she mused as they traveled. Similar to mana networks in Dimension 12, though your physical manifestation techniques are more diverse. Fascinating evolutionary adaptation. And your world? Naruto asked, genuinely curious despite the circumstances. Does everyone there travel between dimensions? Kai snorted. Hardly. Most humans in my dimension would faint at the proof of alien life, let alone alternate realities. I work WITH, a specialized group that monitors threats across the multiverse. Usually cleaning up after my cousin and his Omnitrix. Omnitrix. The word resonated oddly with Naruto, as though he'd heard it before. Another transformation device, Kai explained, eyeing the Nexus dial. Created by the same being who theorized your bracer, though Ben's contains alien DNA rather than mythological entities. Causing trouble across the galaxy since he was 10 years old. Kakashi, running slightly ahead, called back, "We have a complication." The complication became apparent as they crested the next ridge. The valley below, which had been dry when they'd passed through earlier, now contained a massive lake where none had existed before. Water stretched for kilometers, submerging the trading route they'd planned to follow. "That's new," Naruto observed, the Nexus dial pulsing subtly against his wrist. "And I'm guessing not natural." Kai produced a device from her pocket, something resembling a compact but far more complex. Lights blinked across its surface as she pointed it toward the unexpected lake. Dimensional aftershock. The reality barrier is still stabilizing after that rupture. Phi. Sakal geography is temporarily malleable. Temporarily? Kakashi questioned. Meaning it will revert, or become permanent, Kai replied grimly. Dimensional physics isn't always predictable, especially around powerful artifacts like the Nexus dial. My guess is that lake was always there in another timeline or dimension, and reality is glitching. Naruto studied the water, which seemed ordinary despite its impossible appearance. We could go around, but that would add half a day to our journey. Or, Kai suggested, nodding toward the dial, you could transform again. Ryujin is a water deity, after all. The suggestion made logical sense, yet Naruto hesitated. The transformation had felt natural, exhilarating, even, but also overwhelming. Becoming a mythological being wasn't like using a jutsu. It altered his fundamental perception of reality. You fear losing yourself in the god's consciousness, the Nine Tails observed, its mental voice unusually contemplative. Wouldn't you? Naruto countered internally. These aren't just chakra constructs. They're something else entirely. Asterisk. True. But remember, Kit, you've contained me for 22 years. Your identity has proven remarkably stubborn. The Nine Tails had a point. Throughout his life, Naruto had integrated foreign powers without losing his essential self. Even merging with Sage Chakra or temporarily wieldy. Ing's Six Paths power hadn't fundamentally altered who he was. I'll try, he decided. But I'm not sure how to control which transformation appears. Kai approached, examining the dial with professional interest. It seems to have a selection mechanism. The central display shows which form is currently active. She pointed to the dragon symbol currently illuminated. Rotate the dial to cycle through available forms. Following her suggestion, Naruto turned the outer ring of the dial. The display shifted, cycling through various symbols representing mythological entities. He stopped when the dragon reappeared, then pressed down as he had in the mountain. The transformation engulfed him instantly. Once again, his perspective shifted dramatically as his body elongated into Ryujin's serpentine form. This time, however, he was prepared for the flood of foreign knowledge and sensations. The water responds to your will in this form, Kai called up to him, her voice tiny from his elevated perspective. Try dividing it to create a path. Naruto as Ryujin focused on the lake, extending his awareness into the water. He felt every current, every fish, every submerged plant with perfect clarity. Moving with deliberate grace, he descended until he hovered just above the surface. With a thought, the waters parted, creating a dry pathway across the lakebed. Ancient knowledge informed him that he could maintain this division indefinitely if necessary. Impressive, Kakashi acknowledged. Reminds me of certain legendary techniques from the Warring States era. Kai was already striding down the exposed path. Scanner still active. Legends often have dimensional crossover points as their origin. Your myths about Ryujin might well describe actual encounters with the entity whose form Naruto now wears. They traversed the lake bed quickly, mindful that Naruto was maintaining the water's separation through continuous concentration. Fish swam in the liquid walls to either side, occasionally darting curious glances toward the massive dragon maintaining their displacement. Halfway across, Naruto sensed a disturbance, something large moving beneath the lakebed, displacing sediment with purposeful movement. "We're not alone," he warned, his draconic voice reverberating through water and air alike. "Something's approaching from below." Kakashi immediately went on alert, hands prepared to form seals at the first sign of threat. "Can you identify it?" Before Naruto could respond, the lakebed erupted 50 meters ahead. A creature emerged that defied conventional classification, part crustacean, part reptile. With too many limbs arranged in impossible configurations. Its chitinous armor gleamed with unnatural iridescence under the afternoon sun. "Dimensional refugee," Kai identified grimly. Her scanner aimed at the monstrosity. Pulled through during the reality rupture. "Non-sentient predator, if these readings are accurate." The creature oriented toward them, Sen's Ori appendages quivering as it processed their presence. With shocking speed, it charged toward Kakashi and Kai. Naruto reacted instinctively, drawing upon Ryujin's powers. A focused jet of pressurized water struck the creature's side, powerful enough to shatter stone. The impact barely slowed the monster, its chitin apparently evolved to withstand extreme pressure. "Conventional attacks won't work," Kai shouted, dodging a sweeping appendage. "Its molecular structure is partially out of phase with our dimension." Kakashi leapt backward, hands flashing through seals. Lightning release. Thunderclap arrow. The lightning jutsu struck true but passed harmlessly through the creature's body, confirming Kai's assessment. Naruto analyzed the situation with dual perspective, his tactical shinob. "I mind working in concert with Ryujin's ancient wisdom. The creature existed between dimensions, which meant, I need to force it fully into this reality before we can harm it," he realized aloud. Drawing upon deeper aspects of Ryujin's power, Naruto focused on the boundary between dimensions, the very fabric of reality that he had manipulated earlier to close the rupture. Coiling his massive form around the creature, Naruto created a boundary of pressurized water, infused with the same energy that had sealed the dimensional rift. The water glowed with ethereal light as it compressed, foreseeing the creature fully into the physical dimension. "Now," Naruto commanded as the creature's form solidified completely, its partial dimensional phasing neutralized. Kakashi needed no further instruction. Lightning release. Purple electricity. The advanced lightning technique, far more powerful than his previous attack, struck the now vulnerable creature with devastating effect. Electricity coursed through its system, amplified by the conductive water Naruto maintained around it. The creature convulsed once before collapsing, its threat neutralized. As it fell, its body began deteriorating rapidly, molecular structure breaking down now that it was forced to conform entirely to the physical laws of this dimension. "Efficient teamwork," Kai commented, approaching the dissolving remains with scientific interest. Her scanner recorded data as the creature's body deliquesced into component molecules. "Though I'm more interested in how you intuitively understood dimensional phase manipulation. That's not typically covered in ninja school, I assume." Naruto, returning to human form as they reached the opposite shore, considered the question. "It wasn't me exactly, more like Ryujin's knowledge becoming temporarily accessible. I understood concepts I don't have names for." "Which confirms my suspicions," Kai noted, pocketing her scanner. "The Nexus dial doesn't just reshape your DNA like Ben's Omnitrix. It temporarily merges your consciousness with actual mythological entities that exist across dimensional boundaries." The implications settled heavily as they resumed their journey toward Konoha. Naruto examined the dial with newfound respect and trepidation. "So when I transform, you're not just wearing their shape," Kai confirmed. "You're partially merging with beings that your mythology classified as gods, but science would consider transdimensional entities of immense power. Beings that exist across multiple realities simultaneously." Kakashi's visible eye narrowed thoughtfully. "Which explains why you were able to manipulate the dimensional rupture. You were channeling abilities that naturally interact with the boundaries between realities." The forest thinned as they approached Konoha's outskirts, familiar territory providing stark contrast to the cosmic revelations of their conversation. Naruto fell momentarily silent, processing everything he'd learned. The responsibility of wielding such power, of temporarily merging with godlike beings, wasn't lost on him. "You've handled worse, Kit," the Nine Tails reminded him, its mental voice carrying unusual reassurance. "At least these entities seem willing participants." For now, Naruto replied silently. But gods, or whatever they actually are, rarely lack agendas of their own. The massive gates of Konoha appeared ahead, a symbol of home and stability amid increasingly unstable circumstances. Guards posted at the entrance straightened as they recognized Kakashi's distinctive silver hair. "Welcome back, Kakashi-sama," one called out before noticing their unusual companion. "Your mission was successful." "Complicated," Kakashi replied diplomatically. "Please inform Lady Tsunade we'll be reporting directly to her. Our findings are sensitive." The guard nodded, dispatching a messenger while eyeing Kai with professional suspicion. Visitors without documentation or escort typically faced intensive screening. But Kakashi's authority temporarily bypassed standard protocols. As they passed through Konoha's main street, Naruto observed Kai cataloging details with analytical precision: architecture, population density, technology level, social dynamics revealed through casual interactions. Her assessment reminded him of his own habits when entering unfamiliar territory, identifying strategic assets and potential threats automatically. "Your village is more advanced than I expected," Kai noted, gesturing toward a shop where a medic nin was using chakra to diagnose a civilian's illness. "The integration of your energy system, chakra, into everyday life creates interesting technological parallels without industrial development." "We have our own form of technology," Naruto explained, suddenly seeing his familiar environment through an outsider's perspective. Chakra-based rather than mechanical in many cases, but effectively serving the same functions. "There can be." Arsation paused as they reached the Hokage Tower. Unlike his younger days when he might have barged into Tsunade's office unannounced, Naruto waited respectfully while Kakashi handled the formalities. Minutes later, they were ushered into the familiar circular office where the fifth Hokage awaited, amber eyes sharp with curiosity. "Your preliminary report mentioned unexpected findings," Tsunade began without preamble, attention shifting immediately to Kai. "I assume this is one of them." "Lady Tsunade, this is Kai Green," Kakashi introduced formally. "An archaeologist from another dimension who specializes in artifacts like the one Naruto activated." If Tsunade was surprised by the mention of other dimensions, she concealed it masterfully. Years of shinobi diplomacy had prepared her for all manner of unexpected developments. "I see. And the anomalous chakra signature we detected." Naruto stepped forward, revealing the Nexus dial on his wrist. "This device appeared in the chamber we investigated. It allows transformation into beings that aren't from our world or dimension." "Gods, according to your mythology," Kai interjected, professional demeanor unchanged by Tsunade's authoritative presence. "Transdimensional entities of immense power, according to science." Tsunade's fingers steepled beneath her chin, a gesture Naruto recognized as her processing complex information. "Demonstrate." The request was expected. Naruto considered which transformation would be least disruptive indoors before selecting one of the symbols he hadn't yet explored. As he activated the dial, he braced for the now familiar rush of foreign consciousness. The transformation was instantaneous but dramatically different from Ryujin. Rather than expanding outward, his form condensed into something more humanoid yet unmistakably otherworldly. Golden feathers replaced hair, his facial features sharpening into a hawk-like countenance. Massive wings extended from his back, brushing the office ceiling despite his restraint. Knowledge flooded his awareness: wind currents, atmospheric pressure, the location of every living creature within kilometers. He perceived ultraviolet light, magnetic fields, subtle energy patterns invisible to human senses. Garuda, he named himself, voice melodic yet powerful. Hindu deity of the skies, sworn enemy of cosmic serpents, carrier of Vishnu. Tsunade's composure finally cracked, eyes widening at the transformation. "Remarkable. You maintain your consciousness in this form." "I am still Naruto," he confirmed, folding massive wings carefully to avoid disturbing scrolls. "But I access Garuda's knowledge and abilities." His awareness merges with mine temporarily. "The Nexus dial," Kai explained, scientific professionalism masking her own fascination, "creates a temporary bridge between Naruto's physical form and these entities that exist across multiple dimensional planes. Unlike most transformation techniques I've studied, this isn't ICRY or illusion, it's partial dimensional merging." Tsunade rose from her desk, circling Naruto's transformed state with the critical eye of both Hokage and medical specialist. And the risks. No power comes without cost. That's what concerns me, Kai admitted. The dial was theoretical when I last accessed interdimensional archives. The beings it connects to are ancient, powerful, and unlikely. Why to serve as passive power sources without agenda? Naruto reverted to human form, the transformation releasing with a flash of golden light. I've felt no hostile intent from the transformations so far. If anything, they seem curious. Quote, about you specifically or our world generally? Tsunade questioned shrewdly. Both, perhaps. Naruto considered his experiences. They provide knowledge freely but observe through my senses. I don't think they can fully manifest in our dimension without the dial serving as intermediary. Which could explain why the device appeared now, Kakashi suggested. If dimensional boundaries are weakening, as evidenced by the anomalies we've witnessed, these entities might be seeking anchors in our reality. The implications hung heavily in the Hokage's office. Tsunade returned to her desk. Decision visibly forming. This situation requires careful management. Naruto, you'll work with our research division to document and understand each transformation's capabilities. Kakashi, coordinate with border patrols. If one-dimensional refugee appeared, others may follow. She turned to Kai, diplomacy replacing command. Ms. Green, while you repair your transportation device, Konoha would appreciate your expertise regarding these dimensional matters. We can provide resources and accommodation in exchange for consultation. Kai considered the offer briefly before nodding. Acceptable terms. The dimensional convergence centered on this location suggests your world is crucial to whatever cosmic event is unfolding. My research interests align with your security concerns. Then it's settled. Tsunade's gaze returned to the dial on Naruto's wrist. Though that device remains our primary unknown variable, its appearance can't be coincidence, nor its bonding to a Jinchuriki. The 9 tails, Kai recognized, earning surprised looks. My scanner detected the secondary energy signature. Fascinating containment methodology. A living prison rather than technological containment. Naruto tensed slightly. Conversations about the 9 tails still triggering defensive instincts despite years of coexistence with the entity. Kurama isn't just contained anymore. We've formed a partnership. Quote, even more interesting. Kai's scientific detachment softened slightly. That might explain why the dial bonded with you specifically. Your experience belonging multiple consciousnesses within one form creates natural compatibility with its function. Before they could explore this theory further, a Chunin burst through the door, protocol abandoned in evident urgency. Lady Tsunade, the river, it's flowing backward, and there are reports of strange creatures emerging from the water. Tsunade rose immediately, years of crisis management evident in her calm efficiency. Kakashi, coordinate village defense. Naruto, already on it. Naruto confirmed, the Nexus dial activating as he moved toward the window. The transformation into Ryujin overtook him mid-leap, his serpentine form materializing fully as he cleared the Hokage tower. From his elevated perspective, Naruto immediately assessed the situation. The Nakano River that supplied Konoha had indeed reversed course, water flowing uphill in defiance of physical law. More concerning were the figures emerging from the churning waters, humanoid but clearly not human, with gills and scaled appendages that suggested aquatic adaptation. More dimensional refugees. Kai's voice reached him from below, the archaeologist having followed onto a rooftop with surprising agility. Her scanner was already active, collecting data on the intruders. But these are sentient, unlike the lake predator. This complicated matters significantly. Non-sentient threats could be neutralized without moral consideration. But intelligent beings deserved communication attempts, regardless of their origin. Naruto descended toward the river's edge, where shinobi had already formed defensive positions. Maintaining Ryujin's imposing form, he positioned himself between Konoha's defenders and the emerging aquatic humanoids. I am Naruto Uzumaki of Konohagakure, he announced, Ryujin's harmonic voice carrying across the disturbed waters. You have emerged in our dimension through anomalous means. State your intentions. The aquatic beings hesitated, webbed hands raised defensively. One stepped forward, taller than the others, with elaborate patterns etched into iridescent scales covering humanoid features. When it spoke, the language was unintelligible yet hauntingly musical. They can't understand you. Kai called out, approaching despite the potential danger. Dimensional translation isn't automatic. Let me try. She produced another device from her seemingly inexhaustible supply of advanced technology. Adjusting settings before addressing the aquatic leader. The device emitted harmonics that approximated their musical language. The leader's response seemed cautious but not hostile. After several exchanges, Kai turned toward Naruto. They're Neridians, aquatic sentients from a water dimension. The dimensional fluctuations pulled them through against their will when their realm briefly overlapped with yours. They're as confused as we are. This presented both challenge and opportunity. Naruto maintained Ryujin's form but adjusted his posture to appear less threatening. Ask if THEY know what caused the dimensional disruption, and whether they can return to their realm. More musical exchanges followed before Kai translated again. They detected unusual energy patterns throughout their dimension before being drawn here. Something is causing boundaries between realities to become permeable. As for returning, she frowned. The passage they came through has already closed. They're stranded, at least temporarily. Naruto processed this information as Tsunade arrived at the riverbank, accompanied by a contingent of Jonin. The Hokage's analytical gaze assessed the situation before focusing on Kai. Can you explain our peaceful intentions? Tsunade requested. We'll provide temporary sanctuary while we determine how to help them return home. As Kai facilitated communication, Naruto's attention shifted to the Nexus dial, which pulsed with increased intensity. Something about this situation, dimensions overlapping, beings displaced across realities, connected directly to the device now bonded to him. The boundaries between worlds grow thinner, Kurama observed within Naruto's mind, unusually contemplative. Not unlike the barriers between tailed beasts and their hosts. You think the dial is related to these dimensional breaches? Naruto questioned internally. Not their cause, the Nine Tails clarified, but perhaps created in response to them. A tool to navigate the coming chaos. This perspective aligned with Naruto's developing instincts. The dial hadn't appeared randomly, it had manifested precisely when dimensional stability began faltering. Bonding with someone uniquely qualified to balance multiple powerful consciousnesses. As diplomatic exchanges continued on the riverbank, Naruto ascended slightly, observing Konoha from Ryujin's elevated perspective. The village he'd sworn to protect now faced threats from beyond conventional understanding. Other dimensions, other realities, beings neither ally nor enemy but simply displaced. Kai's voice interrupted his contemplation. They've agreed to Tsunade's offer of temporary sanctuary. Apparently, their dimensional sensors detected similar anomalies across multiple realities. Whatever's happening isn't isolated to our worlds. Returning to human form, Naruto landed beside Kai as Tsunade organized accommodations for the Neridians. You don't seem surprised by any of this, he observed. Dimensional incursions aren't unprecedented in my line of work, Kai replied, though her professional detachment couldn't fully mask her concern. But the scale and frequency are troubling. Usually, barriers between realities are far more stable. And the dial. Naruto raised his wrist, where the device continued pulsing with subtle energy. You said it was theoretical. It was. Kai's focus shifted fully to the Nexus dial, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding broader concerns. Which suggests either someone completed Azimuth's design, or reality itself manifested it in response to the dimensional crisis. Kai's expression became thoughtful. Quantum theory in my dimension suggests that under certain conditions, probabilities can collapse in unexpected ways. The dial might represent a universal response to maintain cosmic balance, transforming theoretical possibility into physical reality when needed. The explanation ventured beyond Naruto's scientific understanding, yet something about it resonated with his experiences. Throughout his life, he'd witnessed how the world responded to imbalance, how nature itself seemed to produce counterweights to excessive power. So I'm what? He questioned, half serious. The universe's immune response. Kai's lips quirked in an almost smile. Perhaps, or simply the most compatible host for an artifact designed to bridge dimensions through mythological archetypes. Your existing relationship with a powerful entity, she gestured vaguely toward his seal, creates natural resonance with the dial's function. Their philosophical discussion paused as Tsunade approached, the immediate crisis temporarily managed. The Neridians have been settled in an appropriate environment. Their representative wishes to speak with you. Naruto. Apparently, your dragon form holds special significance in their culture. Ryujin is a water deity, Naruto noted. Their aquatic nature would create natural affinity, which supports my theory about mythological archetypes existing across dimensional boundaries, Kai added. Cultural interpretations vary, but the fundamental entities remain consistent. Tease. Unaid regarded them both with the weary expression of a leader confronting yet another world-altering development. Theoretical discussions can wait. Right now, we need practical solutions. If these dimensional incursions continue, Konoha's resources will be quickly overwhelmed. The dial might help, Naruto suggested, studying the device thoughtfully. If it's designed to bridge dimensions, perhaps it can help stabilize the boundaries between them. Possible, Kai acknowledged, though you'd need greater understanding of each transformation's capabilities. The entities within the dial possess knowledge about dimensional maintenance that neither of us comprehends. Tsunade nodded decisively. Then that becomes our priority. Naruto, work with Kai to document and understand each transformation. If this device can help address the dimensional crisis, we need to master its capabilities quickly. As Tsunade departed to manage village affairs, Naruto and Kai found themselves standing together at the riverbank. The Nakano's flow had normalized, though subtle distortions in the water's surface suggested lingering dimensional instability. 10 transformations, Naruto noted, examining the dial's symbols. 10 mythological beings from across different cultures. 10 perspectives on reality itself, Kai added, her scientific demeanor softening into genuine fascination. This could revolutionize our understanding of dimensional mechanics, assuming we survive whatever cosmic event precipitated their manifestation. Naruto smiled despite the gravity of their situation, a smile that carried echoes of his younger self's determination rather than naive optimism. I've faced the end of the world before. Multiple times, actually. Somehow, that doesn't surprise me, Kai replied, studying him with newfound curiosity. There's something about you that attracts cosmic significance, and not just because of your tenant. Story of my life, Naruto acknowledged ruefully. Usually I'm not wearing mythological beings like cosmic costumes. The Nexus dial pulsed against his wrist, as though responding to his description. Whatever connection existed between Naruto, the device, and the dimensional crisis remained mysterious, but one thing was becoming increasingly clear: their convergence was neither accident nor coincidence. As the sun set over Konoha, casting long shadows across a village now hosting beings from another dimension entirely, Naruto contemplated the responsibility that had, once again, fallen to him. Not the burden of containing a tailed beast or fulfilling prophetic expectations, but something potentially greater: maintaining the very boundaries between realities themselves. The Nexus dial's weight on his wrist felt suddenly profound, Mythical manifestation of cosmic obligation. Whatever forces had brought this device into existence, whatever entities it contained within its mechanisms, they had chosen him as their wielder at Précis. The moment when dimensions began colliding. Tomorrow, he decided, we start understanding exactly what this thing can do. Kai nodded, her expression suggesting she already had experimental protocols in mind. And perhaps why it chose you specifically. Nothing happens without reason during dimensional convergence events. As they turned toward the village, the sky above momentarily shimmered red with aurora-like patterns, beautiful but unnatural, further evidence of reality's thinning boundaries. The challenges ahead would require more than conventional shinobi skills or even the Nine Tails' power. They would demand understanding of cosmic forces beyond normal comprehension. Fortunately, Naruto now carried 10 such perspectives literally at hand, mythological beings whose very existence transcended dimensional boundaries. Gods of legend, perhaps. Or something science had yet to properly classify. Either way, the celestial convergence had begun. And somehow, Naruto Uzumaki stood at its center. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Riddles of the Desert. Heat shimmered across endless dunes, distorting the horizon into liquid mirages that danced and evaporated with each approaching step. 3 figures moved steadily through this golden wasteland, silhouettes diminished by the vast emptiness of the Land of Wind's most desolate region. The merciless sun hanging overhead bore no resemblance to Konoha's gentle warmth. instead pressing down with the focused intensity of a blacksmith's forge. Naruto ran a finger beneath the edge of his sand-protective wrappings, adjusting the breathable fabric that shielded his face from the omnipresent grit. 2 days of travel had leached moisture from his body despite careful rationing of water supplies. Even with chakra augmentation, the Desert exacted its toll from all who dared traverse its dominion. Remind me why we couldn't just use the Nexus dial to fly over this inferno? He questioned, voice slightly muffled through protective layers. The device in question pulsed against his wrist with sporadic intensity, as though responding to the extreme environment, or something hidden within it. Kai, walking several paces ahead with scanner extended, didn't break stride. Her clothing had been modified for desert conditions, yet she moved with the practiced efficiency of someone accustomed to harsh fieldwork. 3 reasons, she replied. Professional tone unaffected by environmental discomfort. First, unnecessary transformations risk dimensional energy leakage when reality barriers are already compromised. Second, flying entities would be visible for kilometers, attracting precisely the attention we're trying to avoid. Third, she paused, adjusting her scanner's settings. The energy signature we're tracking exhibits unusual properties when exposed to transformation emissions. It retreats. It's hiding from the dial, Naruto translated, intrigued despite his discomfort. The mission parameters had seemed straight for war. When Tsunade dispatched them to investigate ancient ruins reportedly containing symbols matching those on the Nexus dial. The reality had proven considerably more complex. Not hiding, their third companion corrected. Teal eyes narrowing against reflected sunlight. Responding. There's a difference. Tamari of the Sand moved with desert-born confidence, reading subtle shifts in terrain invisible to outsiders. As diplomatic liaison and guide, her presence had been non-negotiable when foreign shinobi, especially one containing the 9 tails, requested entry into sensitive archaeological territories. Kai acknowledged the distinction with a slight nod. Semantically accurate. The energy pattern actively shifts when exposed to transformation frequencies, suggesting intelligent response rather than automated avoidance. The significance wasn't lost on Naruto. So whatever left those markings is still active after thousands of years. And watching, Tamari added, her customary fan Saku, red across her back catching occasional sunlight. The diplomatic cordiality she'd maintained since their arrival at Sunagaku's gates had gradually given way to professional interest as the expedition's unusual nature became apparent. Which raises questions about its intentions. The conversation paused as they crested another dune, revealing their first glimpse of their destination. Unlike the grandeur of most ancient sites, these ruins barely qualified for the designation, fractured stone columns half submerged in sand, the broken remnants of what might once have been a circular structure. Nothing about the site suggested architectural significance or hidden knowledge. Yet according to both Suna's archives and Kai's interdimensional scanners, this unassuming collection of weathered street ones contained information vital to understanding the Nexus dial's origins. Doesn't look like much, Naruto observed, strategically assessing the location with professional attention. His vibrant personality had matured rather than diminished with age, enthusiasm channeled into focused competence rather than extinguished. Perfect camouflage for something worth protecting. Tamari granted him an appraising glance, subtle reassessment evident in her expression. Her initial diplomatic caution had been colored by memories of the impulsive genin she'd encountered during their first Chunin exams. That loud, unpredictable boy seemed entirely absent from the composed shinobi now analyzing the ruins with tactical precision. Suna's archaeologists reported unusual findings 3 months ago, she explained as they descended toward the site. Markings inconsistent with any known ancient script, materials resistant to standard dating techniques, and localized electromagnetic anomalies that disrupted chakra sensing. Research was suspended after 2 senior scholars experienced unexplained memory loss following prolonged exposure to certain symbols. Memory loss. Naruto's attention sharpened. Specific memories or general impairment. Specific, Tamari confirmed. Both individuals lost exactly 3 hours of memory while studying a particular sequence of glyphs. When they attempted to document their findings using photography or sketching, the images would appear distorted or completely blank. Information protection protocols, Kai identified immediately, professional demeanor intensifying. Advanced civilizations, and certain interdimensional entities, develop methods to prevent unauthorized knowledge transfer. The memory alteration prevents verbal transmission while the documentation disruption prevents physical recording. Naruto's hand drifted unconsciously toward the Nexus dial. But if the dial is connected to whatever left those markings, you might bypass the protection measures, Kai finished. Nodding. The energy signature recognizes the dial as authorized technology. Your transformation abilities could be the key to accessing information without triggering security responses. They reached the perimeter of the ruins, where scattered stones formed a rough boundary between undisturbed desert and archaeological disruption. Close inspection revealed he cites true nature, not a collection of random ruins, but a deliberately crafted arrangement. The stone columns, seemingly positioned by chance, aligned with astronomical precision when viewed from specific angles. Kai activated different scanning modalities, holographic displays projecting from her device. Fascinating. The visible ruins are merely surface markers. The actual complex extends approximately 30 meters beneath the sand, preserved in a state of perfect suspension. Suspended how? Tamari questioned, professional wariness evident. As soon as representative, her responsibility. Tai extended beyond mere guidance. Any potential threat to her village required thorough assessment. Temporarily, Kai replied, adjusting scanner settings to display subsurface imaging. The entire or ground structure exists in a state of decelerated time. What we perceive as 3,000 years of abandonment might represent mere days from the structure's perspective. The implications settled heavily amid the desert heat. Naruto exchanged glances with Tamari, whose expression reflected his own mixture of fascination and caution. Technology, or techniques, capable of manipulating time itself, exceeded even the most advanced capabilities known to the 5 great nations. How do we access it? Naruto finally asked, logical progression trumping philosophical concerns. Whatever knowledge lay preserved beneath the sand, its connection to the increasingly frequent dimensional anomalies couldn't be coincidence. Kai circled the perimeter slowly, scanner tracking invisible energy patterns. Quote, the entrance mechanism requires specific activation. These surface markers aren't decorative, they're functional components of a complex security system. She paused before a particular stone column, scanner displaying concentrations of unusual energy. This one serves as primary interface. It needs. She hesitated, scientific certainty momentarily faltering. It needs a question. A question. Tamari echoed skeptically. A riddle, specifically. Kai's expression suggested she found the concept equally perplexing from a technological standpoint. The energy configuration is designed to respond to specific linguistic patterns associated with paradoxical or lateral thinking constructs, riddles. Naruto studied the weathered column, unremarkable except for faint symbols barely visible beneath millennia of erosion. The Nexus dial pulsed with increased intensity, its rhythm synchronizing with his heartbeat. Among the transformations he'd briefly glimpsed while cycling through the dial's options, one symbol had featured a creature associated with precisely such challenges. I think I know how to access it, he said quietly, raising his wrist where the dial continued its insistent pulsing. One of the transformations might be specifically designed for this. Temari's posture shifted subtly, not quite defensive, but prepared. Despite diplomatic cordiality, the sudden transformatio of a foreign Jinchuriki on Suna territory represented significant security considerations. What exactly are you planning? Naruto appreciated her directness. The political dance of filtered communication had never suited either of them. The Sphinx transformation. From what little I understand about the mythology, sphinxes were guardians who tested travelers with riddles. If this entrance requires similar challenges, that form might instinctively know how to proceed. He turned toward Kai, whose scientific curiosity visibly warred with cautious methodology. Thoughts. Theoretically sound, she acknowledged after brief consideration. The Nexus dial's transformations appear tailored to specific interdimensional interactions. If this site was created by the same civilization, or entities, that designed the dial, compatibility is likely. Decision made, Naruto stepped toward the central column. The dial's interface responded immediately to his intent, cycling through available transformations until the Sphinx symbol appeared. With practiced motion, he activated the transformation. The process differed subtly from previous changes. Rather than the rushing expansion of Ryujin or the feathered metamorphosis of Garuda. This transformation felt measured, deliberate knowledge replacing physical alteration. His body reconfigured into a form neither fully human nor entirely leonine. Powerful feline hindquarters supporting a humanoid torso, desert gold fur gleaming beneath the merciless sun. Wings folded against his back, more symbolic than functional, while his face retained hum. Anoid features framed by a mane that shifted between hair and fur. Most significantly, his mind expanded into new awareness, patterns of logic, linguistic structures, philosophical paradoxes, and the fundamental nature of questions and answers becoming suddenly accessible. Knowledge crystallized with pristine clarity, revealing connections previously invisible. Fascinating adaptation, Kai observed. Scanner capturing detailed readings of the transformation. Your physiology incorporates elements of Egyptian, Greek and Persian Sphinx variants simultaneously, a composite archetype rather than culture-specific manifestation. The newly transformed Naruto, momentarily viewing himself through Sphinx consciousness, found the observation simultaneously accurate and amusingly incomplete. The Sphinx entity maintained awareness across multiple cultural interpretations simultaneously, existing beyond temporal or geographical limitation. I am riddle and answer both, he responded, voice resonant-ing with harmonic undertones that seemed to penetrate stone and sand alike. Guardian of knowledge and tester of worthiness. He approached the central column, newfound senses perceiving energy patterns invisible to human perception. Ancient symbols illuminated with internal light, responding to his proximity. Tamari maintained disciplined composure despite witnessing a transformation unlike any shinobi technique. Can you open the entrance? Not immediately, Naruto replied, Sphinx consciousness processing information at accelerated rates. The security system requires specific exchange. Alanjan response, question and answer. His clawed hand traced symbols etched into weathered stone, understanding flowing through direct contact. This site contains knowledge considered dangerous if accessed without proper perspective. The riddle serves as calibration mechanism rather than mere barrier. Kai approached cautiously, scanner capturing the energy exchange between transformed Naruto and ancient stone. The column is measuring your cognitive pattern, ensuring compatibility before granting access. Yes, Naruto's Sphinx form settled into a traditional pose, powerful haunches foe. LDED beneath him as his upper body remained upright. I must both provide and solve a riddle that demonstrates understanding of dimensional principles. The question itself must contain elements of the answer. The complexity of this requirement might have confused his human consciousness, but Sphinx awareness navigated such paradoxical structures with natural affinity. Drawing upon knowledge bellow, NGING to the Sphinx entity rather than Naruto Uzumaki, he formulated a question in language that transcended conventional linguistics. I speak without sound, devour without hunger, and exist without form, he intoned. Clawed fingers tracing corresponding symbols across the column's surface. I separate realities that were never meant to touch, yet unite truths that cannot exist apart. What am I? The column responded, ancient stone vibrating with awakened energy. Sand shifted beneath their feet as subsurface mechanisms activated for the first time in millennia. Symbols illuminated across all visible ruins simultaneously, connecting previously isolated elements into a coherent whole. What was the answer? Tamari questioned, practical focus undiminished by the spectacle unfolding around them. Paradox, Naruto replied, Sphinx consciousness already anticipating the system's response. The question itself demonstrated understanding of paradoxical principles through its construction. The answer was embedded within the riddle's structure. Before further explanation became necessary, the ground before the central column began receding, sand flowing away from a circular opening that expanded with mathematical precision. Stone steps appeared, descending into darkness untouched by surface light. Preserved air rushed upward from the opening, not stale as expected from millennia of isolation, but crisp and faintly scented with unfamiliar spices. Temporal suspension, Kai explained, scanner analyzing the phenomenon. From the structure's perspective, it was sealed perhaps hours ago. Naruto rose from his Sphinx posture, powerful form moving with fluid grace as he approached the revealed entrance. The invitation is specific, he noted, Sphinx senses detecting subtle energy patterns. Those accompanying the questioner may enter, but certain restrictions apply. He turned toward his companions. No recording devices, no removal of artifacts, and his gaze settled on Tamari. Representatives of political entities must declare their presence. Tamari straightened, diplomatic training evident in her composed response. I am Tamari of Sunagaker, representing the 5th Cage and the interests of the Land of Wind. The entrance pulsed with acknowledgement, energy patterns shifting to accommodate this declaration. Naruto nodded, Sphinx consciousness interpreting the response. Accepted with conditions. Knowledge accessible within is classified by originating civilization as non-political, and cannot be weaponized by nations or villages. Fascinating security protocols, Kai observed, reluctantly deactivating her scanner. Sophisticated ethical parameters beyond typical access restrictions. With preparations complete, they descended into the revealed passage. Illumination manifested from the surrounding architecture, not fire or electricity, but a soft ambient glow emanating from the material itself. The passageway extended downward in a perfect spiral, each step precisely angled to create balanced descent. As they proceeded deeper, the temperature normalized to perfect comfort despite the desert inferno above. The air remained fresh, circulate, through unseen mechanisms that had functioned flawlessly for millennia, or mere hours, from the structure's temporally suspended perspective. Who built this place? Tamari questioned, Professiona. Assessment never ceasing despite the marvel surrounding them. No historical records mention civilization capable of such construction in the Land of Wind. Because it wasn't built by your world's civilizations, Kai replied. Voice hushed despite deactivated recording equipment. The architectural signatures match interdimensional construction methods documented in 17 distinct reality streams. This facility exists simultaneously across multiple dimensions while maintaining physical presence in yours. The spiral descent concluded in a perfectly circular chamber approximately 30 meters below the surface. Unlike the weathered ruins above, this space remained in pristine condition, polished stone walls covered with intricate symbols, floor inlaid with materials resembling pearl and obsidian arranged in astronomical patterns, ceiling depicting constellations unknown to Earth's night sky. Central to the chamber stood a raised dais supporting what initially appeared to be a odal of celestial bodies, spheres of varying sizes orbiting a central light source. Closer inspection revealed each sphere represented not planets but entire dimensions, their orbits depicting relationship patterns between realities. It's a dimensional map, Naruto observed, Sphinx consciousness comprehending the representation instinctively. Each sphere contains an entire universe with its own physical laws and evolutionary pathways. Quote, Kai approached the display with barely contained scientific fascination. The central illumination represents what my dimension calls the nexus point, theoret. Ical convergence where all realities maintain tenuous connection. More than theoretical, Naruto corrected, Sphinx knowledge providing deeper understanding. The nexus point exists beyond conventional space-time, accessible only through specific circumstances or technologies. His gaze shifted meaningfully toward the dial on his transformed wrist. Tamari circled the chamber's perimeter, examine. Inscriptions with scholarly precision despite her primary diplomatic role. These symbols match reports from our researchers, the ones who experienced memory loss. Naruto approached the wall section Tamari indicated. Sphinx consciousness automatically translating abstract symbols into comprehensible concepts. These describe the creation of what Kai calls the nexus dial, though the original assignation translates closer to reality convergence mechanism. He traced clawed fingers across specific sequences, information flowing through direct contact. It was created by beings who existed primarily within the nexus point itself, entities your mythology might label gods, though their nature was neither supernatural nor divine in the religious sense. Transdimensional engineers who recon IZED patterns of instability developing across reality boundaries. When was it created? Kai questioned, scientific methodology persisting despite equipment restrictions. Time becomes complicated. When discussing nexus point operations, Naruto replied, Sphinx consciousness struggling to translate temporal concepts into linear language. From this dimension's perspective, approximately 12,000 years ago. From others, it might be future technology not yet developed. From the creator's perspective, temporal designation lacks meaning entirely. He continued translating connected symbol sequences. Sphinx consciousness assembling fragmented information into coherent narrative. The dial was created as response to predicted crisis, a fundamental breakdown in dimensional boundary integrity. Natural barriers between realities maintain cosmic equilibrium, preventing laws of physics from one dimension contaminating another. When these barriers weaken, reality bleeds across boundaries, Kai finished. Connecting theoretical knowledge with observed phenomena. Explaining the dimensional refugees, geographic alterations, and temporal anomalies we've encountered. Yes. Naruto's Sphinx form moved with deliberate grace toward another section of inscriptions. But these disruptions aren't random. According to these records, dimensional barrier degradation follows specific pattern indicative of deliberate causation rather than natural entropy. The implications settled heavily across the chamber. Temeri's diplomatic reserve momentarily faltered, professional concern evident. You're suggesting someone is intentionally weakening dimensional boundaries. To what purpose? Unclear from these inscriptions alone, Naruto replied, continuing his translation efforts. However, this section references consumption patterns consistent with devourer methodology and signature energy absorption techniques. The chronivores, Kai breathed, scientific detachment momentarily replaced by genuine alarm. Theoretical entities that consume temporal dimensional energy. My dimension classified them as hypothetical cosmic predators, interdimensional apex consumers that feed on reality itself. Not hypothetical, Naruto corrected, Sphinx knowledge providing grim confirmation. The inscriptions describe previous incursion cycles and containment protocols. The Nexus DIAL represents primary countermeasure, a tool enabling selected wielder to access dimensional guardian entities capable of repairing reality breaches and confronting chronivore manifestations. This evolution contextualized the transformations beyond mere mythological embodiments. Each entity accessible through the dial represented a fundamental aspect of reality maintenance, their powers specify. Calibrated to counteract dimensional degradation. Before they could process these implications fully, a subtle vibration disrupted the chamber's perfect stillness. Dust dislodged from the spiral passage, suggesting disturbance above ground. We're not alone, Temari stated, fan already in hand as she moved toward the entrance. Professional caution replaced scholarly interest instantly. Someone followed our trail. Naruto's Sphinx senses extended beyond physical limitations, detecting disruptions in energy patterns surrounding the ruins. Multiple presences, 12 distinct signatures with chakra suppression techniques. Not Suna Shinobi. Kai retrieved a compact device from her pocket, not her deactivated scanner, but something designed for defense rather than research. Whoever they are, they've surrounded the entrance. Tactical formation suggests professional training. Rogue Shinobi, Temari questioned, already calculating defensive options in confined space. No, Naruto replied, Sphinx senses analyzing distinctive patterns. Their energy signatures include dimensional contamination indicators, native to this reality but recently exposed to foreign dimensional elements. Mercenaries, most likely, employed by someone with access to dimensional technology or artifacts. Strategic assessment occurred simultaneously across three distinct perspectives. Temeri's diploma. Tick tactical mind prioritizing Suna's security interests, Kai's interdimensional experience evaluating exotic threat potentials, and Naruto's hybrid consciousness combining shinobi training with Sphinx strategic processing. We need information before engagement, Naruto decided, Sphinx form already shifting toward the spiral passage. I'll reconnoiter while maintaining transformation. Sphinx Abbey. Liddies include perception manipulation. I can observe without being observed if necessary. Temari nodded tactical agreement despite her diplomatic mandate to maintain oversight of foreign operatives in Suna territory. Practicality trumped protocol when confronting unknown threats. Identify leadership and objectives if possible. And dimensional technology, Kai added, adjusting settings on her defensive device. Particularly anything resembling transportation or barrier manipulation equipment. Naruto ascended the spiral passage with impossible silence despite his substantial Sphinx form. Powerful muscles distributing weight with perfect control. Near the surface, he activated specialized Sphinx abilities, reality manipulation focused specifically on perception fields. Light bent around his form. rendering him invisible to conventional observation while Sphinx senses remained unimpaired. The surface situation confirmed their assessment. 12 individuals had established perimeter control around the ruins, their movements displaying coordinated tactical precision. Their equipment combined conventional shinobi tools with unfamiliar technology, communication devices with subtly wrong configurations, weapons incorporating elements that reflected light at impossible angles, and most significantly, scanning equipment oriented specifically toward the chamber entrance. Their lead, stood apart, a tall figure whose face remained concealed behind an ornate mask reminiscent of ancient theatrical designs, yet incorporating technological elements that periodically emitted pulses of energy. Unlike his subordinates, who maintained conventional chakra suppression, this individual's energy signature fluctuated between different frequency patterns, suggesting regular dimensional transit. "The signature is confirmed," the masked figure stated, voice distorted through technological mediation. "The Nexus dial has activated the Sphinx configuration within the primary containment archive. Phase displacement suggests recent translation of restricted information." One subordinate approached, maintaining respectful distance while reporting. "Preliminary scans detect 3 ALS below, the dial wielder and 2 companions. One signature matches interdimensional traveler profile DELTA-7. The plumber archaeologist, the leader identified with evident satisfaction. Fortuitous convergence. Her presence validates our information source." He gestured toward the entrance. "Prepare dimensional suppression field. When they emerge, neutralize companions first. The wielder's transformation abilities must be disabled before extraction attempt." Having gathered sufficient intelligence, Naruto retreated silently down the spiral passage, perception manipulation maintaining high concealment until reaching the central chamber. The Sphinx transformation released once safely among allies, human form returning with flash of subdued light. 12 hostiles with hybrid technology, he reported immediately. Tactical assessment superseding revelation processing. Their leader possesses dimensional transit capability and specifically referenced the Nexus dial. They're preparing suppression technology designed to neutralize transformation abilities. Temeri's expression hardened into combat readiness. Objectives: dial extraction, primarily, Naruto replied, already calculating countermeasures. They identified Kai as plumber archaeologist, with designation DELTA-7, suggesting intelligence network with interdimensional reach. Chronivore agents, Kai surmised grimly, defensive device fully activated. Advanced scouts assessing dimensional barrier integrity and neutralizing potential resistance. They're cataloging anything that might threaten their consumption cycle. Strategic options appeared limited. Remaining below merely delayed inevitable confrontation while allowing hostiles to establish stronger position. Direct combat risked exposure to unknown dimensional suppression technology. Retreat through alternative means would require abandoning the ancient archive and its critical information. "We need to secure this site," Naruto decided, leadership. P qualities emerging naturally without dominating collaborative process. The knowledge contained here is crucial to understanding the dimensional crisis. If these are truly chronivore agents, they'll likely destroy the archive to prevent access to countermeasure information. Agreed, Tamari stated, diplomatic representative seamlessly transitioning to combat specialist. But their suppression technology presents significant tactical disadvantage. If they can neutralize the dial's abilities, they can try, Naruto replied, confidence stemming from strategic assessment rather than bravado. But the dial isn't their technology, and Sphinx abilities extend beyond simple transformation. Understanding dawned in Kai's expression. Perception manipulation and reality distortion, Sphinx mythologies consistently feature ability to alter how observers experience their surroundings. Exactly. Naruto activated the dial again, Sphinx form materializing with controlled precision. "I can see. Create illusion fields affecting all sensory inputs simultaneously, not just visual. Combined with Temeri's win techniques for physical disruption and your defensive technology. We create chaotic engagement environment maximizing our advantages while neutralizing their technological superiority," Tamari finished, strategic mind immediately grasping the concept. Classic Sand Village doctrine. Control the battlefield's perceptual landscape. With tactical approach established, they ascended the spiral passage together. Rather than emerging directly into waiting ambush, Naruto activated SPH. Ink's reality manipulation at maximum intensity. The perception field extended outward from the entrance, distorting spatial relationships, auditory processing, and even temporal perception for anyone within its influence. Disorientation spread through the enemy formation immediately. Subordinates experienced contradictory sensory inputs, distances expanding and contracting unpredictably, sounds arriving before their visual sources appeared, gravity shifting orientation without warning. Their coordinated perimeter dissolved into individual confusion. Taking advantage of the perceptual chaos, Mari launched precisely calibrated wind techniques, not devastating attacks, but surgical disruptions targeting communication equipment and scanning devices. Enhanced by specialized chakra properties developed during diplomatic security operations, her techniques generated electromagnetic interference that cascaded through enemy technology. Kai deployed her defensive device simultaneously, the compact mechanism expanding into energy barrier configured specifically to counter-dimensional suppression fields. Their technology operates on quantum fluctuation principles, she explained, maintaining barrier concentration, creating harmonic resistance pattern to prevent synchronized activation. The masked leader, partially resistant to perceptual manipulation through advanced protective equipment, identified the primary threat immediately. Target the Sphinx directly. Dimensional frequency jammers at full spectrum. Two subordinates activated devices resembling tuning forks constructed from impossible materials. The air between them distorted as concentrated energy fields attempted to disrupt the Nexus dial's operational frequency. Naruto felt the jamming attempt as uncomfortable pressure against Sphinx consciousness, like trying to think through static interference. Rather than directly opposing this attack, Sphinx intelligence suggested alternative approach. Focusing reality manipulation specifically on the jamming devices themselves, he inverted their dimensional frequency, causing them to interfere with each other rather than external targets. The resulting energy cascade disabled both devices in spectacular failure, their operators thrown backward by conceptual backlash rather than physical explosion. The perception field strengthened in their absence, further disorienting remaining hostiles. Recognizing deteriorating tactical situation, the masked leader activated personal dimensional technology, a wrist-mounted device sharing certain design elements with the Nexus dial. Though clearly derivative rather than equivalent, space warped around his form as emergency extraction protocols initiated. This confrontation is merely preliminary assessment, his RTED voice proclaimed as his form began phasing between dimensional states. The chronivores cannot be stopped. Consumption cycles proceed regardless of resistance efforts. Your reality has been measured and found suitable for processing. Before complete extraction, Naruto directed specific Sphinx ability toward the departing figure, not attempting to prevent escape, but attaching perceptual marker to his dimensional signature. The Sphinx remembers those who fail its riddles, he stated, voice resonating with harmonic power. Dimensional transit cannot erase that connection. The leader's sked face registered momentary alarm before dimensional extraction completed, his form disappearing from conventional reality. With their commander's departure, remaining subordinates initiated emergency protocols, not continued combat, but systematic self-termination. Their physical bodies collapsed while dimensional energy signatures scattered across multiple reality planes, preventing capture or information extraction. As the perception field stabilized, Naruto maintained Sphinx form while assessing battlefield aftermath. They prioritized information security over survival, he observed grimly, suggesting organizational structure valuing operational secrecy beyond individual assets. Tamari approached one collapsed figure, confirming complete biological shutdown. Not conventional shinobi despite tactical training. Their chakra networks show significant modification, artificially enhanced to accommodate dimensional exposure. Human agents altered to serve transdimensional entities, Kai confirmed. Scanner reactivated to analyze residual energy patterns. Classic chronivore methodology according to theoretical models. They identify promising realities, recruit native assets Hero technology offerings are psychic manipulation, then establish intelligence networks before full incursion begins. The implications extended beyond immediate tactical concerns. If these were me, Rely advanced scouts for entities that consumed entire realities. The dimensional crisis represented existential threat beyond anything previously encountered, even the infinite Tsukuyomi or Keigaya's ambitions. We need to secure this site permanently, Tamari decided, diplomatic authority reasserting itself. I'll request specialized Anbu contingent from Suna with appropriate clearance levels. The archive contains information crucial to understanding what we're facing. Naruto nodded agreement, Sphinx consciousness processing multiple strategic layers simultaneously. And we need to continue investigating other sites referenced in the inscriptions. The dial was created as countermeasure against chronivore incursion, which means additional information exists regarding effective opposition strategies. Kai's scientific focus had shifted from academic curiosity to practical defense applications. The archive mentioned multiple containment protocols activated during previous incursion cycles. If we can identify implementation methods. Strategic discussion paused as Naruto's Sphinx senses detected new energy patterns emerging from the underground chamber. The dimensional map they observed earlier had activated independently, projecting holographic representation that expanded across the ruins. Celestial bodies representing individual dimensions rotated with increasing speed, their orbits shifting to highlight specific convergence patterns. It's responding to recent events, Naruto observed, Sphinx consciousness interpreting the display's significance. Tracking dimensi, onal transit signatures and calculating probable destinations. The projection stabilized with particular focus on 7 distinct dimensional representations, their orbital paths intersecting at calculated future points. Lines of force connected these convergence coordinates with their current location, creating 3-dimensional navigational chart through dimensional space-time. Dimensional waypoints, Kai identified. Scanner capturing detailed readings of the projection. The archive is providing coordinates for locations containing additional countermeasure information. It activated AFT-R confirming chronivore agent presence, verification of threat assessment. Tamari studied the projection with practical focus. Can you determine physical locations corresponding to these dimensional coordinates? Within our world specifically, Naruto concentrated Sphinx perception on the holographic display, consciousness extending beyond conventional sensory limitations to perceive multidimensional relationships. 3 coordinates correspond to physical locations in this dimension, one beneath Konoha's Hokage Mountain, another in the Land of Iron's northern territory, and the third. He hesitated, Sphinx consciousness processing unexpected information. The third exists in temporal displacement. It's physically located beneath the Land of Water's central island, but exists approximately 40 years in your past. The complexity of their challenge expanded exponentially with this revelation. Dimensional travel alone presented significant obstacles, but temporal displacement introduced complications beyond conventional strategic planning. First things first, Tamari stated, practical mindset cutting through conceptual overwhelm. We secure this site, document everything translatable, and establish defensive perimeter against further incursions. Then we plan additional investigation based on verifiable information rather than speculation. Her approach represented necessary grounding against increasingly abstract threats. Naruto released the Sphinx transformation, returning to human form with renewed appreciation for Temari's tactical pragmatism. The 9 tails, unusually quiet during recent events, stirred within his consciousness. The desert woman thinks clearly despite cosmic revelations, the entity observed. Stability amid chaos holds its own value. She always has, Naruto acknowledged internally. Even during the Chunin exams, her strategic mind stood out. She's not easily distracted by power displays or theoretical possibilities. Practical implementation proceeded efficiently. While Tamari established communication with Sunagaku through specialized wind jutsu transmission techniques, Kai reprogrammed her scanner to capture dimensional coordinates without disrupting the holographic projection. Naruto, temporarily released from Sphinx consciousness but retaining fragments of its knowledge, focused on translating crucial inscription sections for immediate threat assessment. Hours passed in focused activity, desert sun tracking across merciless sky before Tamari returned from communications outpost she'd established atop nearby dune. Specialized containment team will arrive by midnight, she reported, characteristic efficiency undiminished despite continuous operation in harsh conditions. Gaara has authorized highest security. TIE protocols, Limited access restricted to specifically cleared personnel. Naruto nodded appreciation, recognizing significant political concession in Suna's cooperation. Intervillage relations had improved dramatically since the Fourth Shinobi War, but archaeological sites containing potentially powerful knowledge remained sensitive diplomatic territory. 3 days, he calculated aloud, assembling strategic timeline. 1 to properly secure and document this location, 2 for return journey to Konoha accounting for potential pursuit or environmental complications. You assume I'm continuing with you, Tamari noted, neither confirming nor denying the assessment. Her official mandate covered only Suna territory oversight, though diplomatic flexibility permitted extended operations when circumstances warranted. The dimensional coordinates indicate locations across multiple territories, Naruto replied, diplomatic sensitivity developed through years of cross-village missions. Having representative from another village provides political balance and practical advantages. But, he added with characteristic directness, the decision remains yours. This extends beyond conventional mission parameters. Something shifted in Temari's expression, subtle reevaluation rather than dramatic revelation. Professional respect acquired additional dimension through recognition of matured diplomatic awareness. The boisterous, impulsive genin who had once crashed through her village's Chunin exams had developed into someone who understood political nuance without sacrificing authentic communication. Gaara authorized extended deployment at my discretion, she stated after brief consideration. The dimensional threat transcends individual village concerns. Suna maintains interest in all discovered countermeasure information. Kai, focused on equipment recalibration nearby, interjected without looking up from complex adjustments. Pragmatic cooperation represents intelligent response to existential threat. Native dimensional defenders collaborating effectively improves survival probability regardless of political considerations. The observation, delivered with characteristic scientific detachment, nevertheless carried implicit approval of developing team dynamics. Kai's perspective, informed by experience across multiple dimensional crisis points, provided objective validation of instinctive strategic alignments. Night descended with characteristic desert suddenness, temperature plummeting as merciless sun surrendered dominance to star-filled void. While awaiting Suna's containment team, they established perimeter monitoring system combining conventional shinobi detection techniques with Kai's dimensional fluctuation sensors. Camp necessities manifested with PR. Actic efficiency. Heat-conserving shelter configured to maximize environmental protection while maintaining tactical awareness. Ration distribution accounting for differential metabolic requirements. Watch rotation established with consideration for specialized capabilities. During second watch rotation, Naruto found himself sharing monitoring duties with Tamari, their position atop highest dune, offering unobstructed surveillance across moonlit desert expanse. Strategic necessity created conversational opportunity outside formal mission parameters. You've changed, Tamari observed during routine perimeter scan. Statement offered as neutral observation rather than judgment. Not just physical maturation or technical advancement. Your fundamental approach differs from our first encounter. Naruto considered this assessment while maintaining environmental awareness, Desert Night harboring its own dangers independent of dimensional threats. Experience reshapes perspective. Childhood determination remains, but implementation evolved through practical consequence recognition. The response, delivered without defensiveness or excessive elaboration, earned approving nod. Evolution rather than replacement. Consistency beneath adaptation. Her gaze remained focused outward, professional attention undiminished by conversation. Gaara followed similar developmental path, though his starting point differed significantly. Quote, "We share certain experiences," Naruto acknowledged, recognition extending beyond tailed beast containment to broader patterns of isolation and discovered purpose. Different expressions of similar fundamental questions. Tamari granted him sidelong glance, reassessment continuing through subtle observation. Most people require external validation to my NTAIN identity cohesion through significant transformation. You and Gaara both anchored to internal principles instead, core values independent of circumstance or audience. The insight demonstrated unexpected perceptiveness, suggesting observation depth beyond professional assessment. Naruto recognized significance in both content and delivery, personal perspective offered without diplomatic filtering. Self-defined purpose provides stability when external factors change unpredictably, he replied, reciprocating candor with authentic response. Though purpose itself evolves through expanded understanding. Conversation paused as distant movement required attention, both automatically shifting to tactical focus until potential threat resolved as desert wildlife rather than hostile approach. Professional competence created foundation for continued exchange once security concerns cleared. Your current purpose seems considerably expanded from protecting Konoha, Tamari noted when conversation resumed. Dimensional stability transcends village-centric objectives. Protection parameters adapt to threat scope, Naruto explained, perspective shaped by years confronting escalating danger categories. Village safety requires world stability, which apparently now requires dimensional boundary maintenance. Unexpectedly, this response triggered Temari's first genuine smile of their journey, subtle curve of lips revealing glimpse of personality beneath professional composure. Logical progression. Though most would find cosmic responsibility overwhelming without institutional support structure. Who says I'm not occasionally overwhelmed? Naruto countered, self-awareness replacing youthful invincibility illusion. Difference lies in response rather than reaction. Forward movement despite uncertainty. This acknowledgement of vulnerability without performance or self-pity visibly registered with Tamari, whose own leadership responsibilities required similar balanced self-assessment. Silence settled between them. Not awkward absence, but comfortable space allowing mutual recognition beyond verbal expression. The moment extended until environmental shift demanded attent. Ion. Approaching dust signature indicating Suna containment team's arrival several hours ahead of projected schedule. Professional focus returned immediately as they descended to prepare reception protocols. Tactical transition occurred with practiced efficiency. Suna's specialized team deploying containment measures developed through centuries of forbidden knowledge management. Archaeological preservation balanced against security necessity created operational framework as team leaders coordinated with Tamari regarding jurisdiction parameters. We depart at dawn, Naruto informed his companions once transfer protocols completed. The Konoha coordinate requires priority investigation based on proximity and accessibility. Temporal displacement complexity necessitates additional preparation. Before attempting land of water location, neither Tamari nor Kai required elaboration regarding strategic prioritization, both demonstrating characteristic adaptability to evolving mission parameters. Final preparation proceeded with minimal discussion, individual responsibilities addressed through professional competence rather than explicit coordination. Desert dawn arrived with golden brilliance reflecting across endless dunes. Harsh beauty emphasizing fundamental duality, environment simultaneously breathtaking and unforgiving. As they prepared for departure, Suna's containment team completed archive sealing. Ancient knowledge secured behind multiple protection protocols. The ruins appeared unremarkable once more, weathered stones partially submerged in windblown sand, indistinguishable from countless similar sites scattered across desert expanse. Perfect camouflage restored through deliberate minimization of visible significance. Ready, Naruto asked simply, final equipment C. Hex completed as sun cleared eastern horizon. The Nexus dial pulsed against his wrist with steady rhythm, seemingly responsive to departure preparations. Kai nodded confirmation, scanner configured for passive monitoring during travel. Dimensional stability indicators show temporary equilibrium pattern. Transit window approximately 36 hours before next predicted fluctuation event. Mari completed communication sequence with containment team leader before joining them at perimeter edge, fan secured across her back in travel configuration. Suna will maintain archive security indefinitely. Additional research teams remain on standby pending your investigation results from other coordinates. With confirmation established, they departed westward toward Fire Country border, Li. Ving unremarkable ruins behind while carrying critical knowledge forward. The Sphinx transformation's insights remained partially accessible to Naruto even in human form, fragmented understanding of SMIC architecture previously beyond comprehension. Three figures moved steadily across golden wasteland, diminished by vast emptiness yet propelled by expanded purpose. The merciless sun tracked their progress with indifferent brilliance. Desert witness to countless journeys across millennia, though perhaps none quite like this particular expedition. Hours into their journey, environmental condit. Ions shifted subtly. air pressure fluctuating beyond normal patterns, light quality altering in barely perceptible ways. Naruto detected the changes first, Sphinx-enhanced awareness persisting at reduced intensity. Some things following are dimensional wake, he informed his companions, pace unaltered while senses extended beyond conventional limitations. Not physical pursuit, but monitoring across reality planes. Kai activated scanner without breaking stride, confirmation appearing in displayed readings. Dimensional echo effect. Our interaction with the archive created traceable energy signature that's attracting attention across multiple reality planes. Hostile. Tamari questioned practically, tactical assessment already calculating defensive options if confrontation became necessary. Unclear, Naruto replied, continuing systematic environmental analysis. The signature feels observational rather than aggressive, almost curious. Possible non-chronivore dimensional entity, Kai suggested. Scientific detachment maintained despite potential threat implications. Multiple cosmic factions likely monitor boundary destabilization events. The chronivores represent primary threat vector but not exclusive interdimensional interest category. Strategic options appeared limited in open desert terrain, exposed position creating vulnerability regardless of threat classification. Naruto considered transformation alternatives, each mythological entity offering different approach to dimensional interaction. Before decision crystallized, the environmental fluctuations intensified dramatically. Air shimmered with heat-independent distortion, reality rippling like disturbed water surface. The dimensional boundary thinned visibly, translucent membrane separating their physical location from something else. Rather than hostile manifestation, the boundary simply parted. Observer and observed connected through voluntary interface rather than forced incursion. Through this dimensional window appeared a figure defying conventional description, simultaneously humanoid and abstract, physical and conceptual, singular and composite. Perception translator activated, Kai murmured. Scanner reconfiguring to process unprecedented readings. It's modifying its fundamental structure to facilitate communication across dimensional barriers. The entity stability, Z into more comprehensible form, vaguely feminine in overall configuration though clearly not human despite superficial similarities. When it spoke, its voice transmitted directly into understanding, rather than through conventional sound waves. Nexus dial wielder identified, it stated, communication simultaneously formal and intimate. Chronivore consumption pattern detected, archive activation confirmed, Pantheon protocol evaluation initiated. Naruto stepped forward, diplomatic experience balancing against caution regarding unknown entity. I am Naruto Uzumaki of Konohagakure. Are you connected to the creators of this device? He raised his wrist, Nexus dial pulsing with increased intensity in the entity's presence. The entity's form shifted subtly, configurational adjustments suggesting emotional response despite alien physiology. Creator's designation inaccurate, collaborative development more precise. Multidimensional coalition established during previous consumption cycle to implement countermeasure distribution. Quote, you're part of the resistance against chronivores, Kai translated, scientific lexicon adapting to interdimensional diplomatic requirements. An alliance of affected dimensions that develop the Nexus dial as defensive technology. Affirmative with qualification, the entity confirmed. Resistance implies oppositional relationship, chronivores reprise. NT natural cosmic function, consumption and processing of reality segments for fundamental energy recycling. Opposition targets methodological imbalance rather than existence principle. This distinct ion represented crucial contextual clarification. The chronivores weren't malevolent invaders but cosmic cycle components that had developed imbalanced consumption patterns, natural function becoming existential threat through proportion disruption. The Nexus dial is calibration tool rather than weapon, Naruto surmised, Sphinx-enhanced understanding connecting conceptual fragments. Designed to restore proper dimensional boundary maintenance without eliminating necessary consumption function. The entity's form brightened noticeably, apparent approval manifesting through luminosity increase. Accurate assessment, wielder selection parameters functioning within acceptable parameters. Integration with native dimensional entities progressing appropriately. Tamari, maintaining tactical awareness throughout interdimensional exchange, identified practical implication immediately. You're monitoring his compatibility with the device. testing whether he meets your criteria for authorized use. Evaluation continuous rather than binary, the entity clarified. Adaptation and compatibility represent spectrum variables rather than absolute qualifiers. Current assessment indicates positive trajectory with acceptable variance patterns. Something about this explanation triggered Naruto's diplomatic instincts. Recognition of information deliberately presented to encourage specific response rather than complete disclosure. Years negotiating with village councils and territorial lords had developed sensitivity to strategic communication patterns. "You're not just evaluating," he stated. Certainty growing with observation of subtle configurational shifts in the entity's form. "You're actively investigating anomalous selection parameters. I wasn't your expected wielder." The Tie's brightness fluctuated momentarily before stabilizing, equivalent of surprised hesitation. Perceptiveness exceeds predictive modeling. Confirmation. Nexus dial manifestation location and wielder S. Election deviated from established protocol parameters. Investigation proceeding regarding causation factors. This admission changed contextual understanding significantly. The dial's appearance had followed predetermined distribution plan, suggesting either system malfunction or unexpected variable introduction. Before Naruto could pursue this revelation further, the entity continued with apparent topic shift. Sphinx transformation knowledge integration demonstrates accelerated pattern recognition capability. Riddle function serving appropriate calibration purpose. Recommendation. Prio. Retize transformation diversity rather than specialization to maximize adaptation potential. The strategic advice, delivered without contextual transition, nevertheless contained practical value. Naruto had naturally gravitated toward transformations that proved immediately useful. Ryujin for water and dimensional manipulation, Sphinx for knowledge access and perceptual control. Deliberate exploration of all available forms would expand capability range regardless of immediate utility perception. Understood, Naruto acknowledged, recognizing wisdom in diversification strategy. Will aditio. Null transformations activate automatically when needed, or require deliberate selection. Both mechanisms operational, the entity confirmed. Emergency response protocols enable automatic transformation under specific threat conditions. Conscious selection enables strategic application and controlled knowledge integration. Kai, analyzing scanner data throughout conversation, identified pattern requiring clarification. Your dimensional signature includes temporal dispersion indicators. Your monitoring from outside conventional time stream. Temporal positioning necessity for comprehensive assessment, the entity confirmed. Chronivore consumption patterns affect temporal dimension equally with spatial coordinates. Monitoring requires perspective beyond linear sequence limitation. The implications extended beyond immediate strategic considerations into fundamental understanding of their adversary's nature. Chronivores didn't simply consume dimensions, they processed entire reality segments including associated time streams, effectively erasing events from cosmic continuity. How do we stop them? Tamari asked directly, practical focus cutting through conceptual complexity to central concern. If they're natural cosmic functions rather than conventional enemies, what constitutes effective countermeasure? The entity's form compressed slightly, communication efficiency. Increasing through configuration density. Chronivore balance restoration requires dimensional reinforcement at critical juncture points. Nexus dial transformations provide necessary energy signature. Manipulation capacity at localized intervention coordinates. The locations identified by the archive, Naruto connected. Their dimensional weak points requiring specific reinforcement to prevent chronivore overconsumption. Affirmative with expansion, the entity confirmed. Coordinates represent both vulnerability locations and countermeasure implementation sites. Previous cycle resista. NCE established reinforcement frameworks requiring activation through appropriate energy signature application. Practical implementation strategy emerged through this clarification. The archive hadn't merely identified problem locations but directed them toward pre-established solutions requiring specific activation methods, presumably through appropriate nexus dial transformations at each site. The transformations aren't random mythological entities, Naruto realized, conceptual understanding crystallizing through accumulated information. Each represents specific dimensional maintenance connection corresponding to particular boundary vulnerability type. Correct assessment, the entity acknowledged, form beginning to lose cohesion as dimensional window stability deteriorated. Communication window reaching termination threshold. Final advisory. Chronivore agents identified your dimensional signature. Protective countermeasures recommended during continued investigation activities. The dimensional boundary rippled more intensely, the entity's form becoming increasingly abstract as connection weakened. Its final communication transmitted fragmentarily, concepts rather than structured language. Impressions instead of explicit warning. Coalition monitors. Parallel implementation across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Nexus convergence approaching critical. Wielder selection anomaly suggests. Dimensional consciousness evolution possibly. Unexpected development path. With these cryptic fragments, the dimensional window collapsed entirely, reality stabilizing around conventional physical parameters once more. The desert remained unchanged despite momentary cosmic interface. Endless dunes stretching toward horizon under merciless sun, no evidence remaining of interdimensional visitor beyond scanner readings and shared memory. Well, Tamari stated after momentary silence, practical nature reasserting through understated response to extraordinary encounter. That was informative if somewhat abstract. The observation, delivered with characteristic dry precision, triggered unexpected release of accumulated tension. Naruto laughed. Genuine expression rather than nervous reaction. Appreciation for grounding perspective amid increasingly cosmic revelations. Diplomatic translation skills apply across species boundaries apparently, he acknowledged. Tension further dissipating through humor recognition. Though interdimensional coalition representatives require somewhat different protocol adjustments than daimyo negotiations. Kai, reviewing captured data with scientific focus. Contributed practical assessment without looking up from scanner display. Entity classification matches theoretical continuum guardian parameters, dimensional. Maintenance functionaries operating outside conventional physical limitations. Significant that they're actively monitoring the dial's distribution rather than maintaining non-interference protocols. Suggesting urgency beyond standard operational parameters, Naruto interpreted, strategic implications immediately apparent. The current chronivore consumption cycle represents greater threat than previous incursions. Are they concerned about wielder selection anomaly? Specifically, Tamari suggested, tactical mind identifying alternate significance pattern. Your acquisition of the dial didn't follow their established protocols. That creates unknown variables in their strategic calculations. Both interpretations carried merit, potentially operating simultaneously rather than mutually exclusively. The entity's communication contained multiple information layers, explicit direction regarding transformation utilization, implicit concern regarding distribution deviation, and NTED warning about accelerating crisis timeline. Regardless of specific concern hierarchy, our immediate objectives remain consistent, Naruto concluded pragmatically. Investigate identified coordinates, implement appropriate countermeasures, and prevent chronivore overconsumption from destabilizing dimensional boundaries. This straightforward summation earned approving nods from both companions. Appreciation for clarity amid increasing complexity. With renewed purpose, they resumed westward progress, environmental conditions returning to natural desert patterns without further dimensional fluctuations. Travel continued through afternoon heat, conversation minimal as they conserved energy for sustained movement. The border between wind and fire countries approached gradually, terrain transitioning from pure desert toward scrubland as moisture levels increased marginally. Evening brought welcome temperature reduction along with opportunity for extended rest period before final border crossing. Camp established with practiced efficiency, each contributing according to specialized capabilities. As night settled across the transitional landscape, stars emerged with desert-specific brilliance, cosmic display seemingly more significant following interdimensional encounter. Contemplative silence prevailed until meal completion, Kai finally addressing accumulated questions with scientific directness. The entity's communication confirms theoretical models regarding multidimensional coalition existence, though organizational structure remains unclear. More significant is confirmation that the dial represents deliberate countermeasure technology rather than incidental artifact. And that I wasn't supposed to receive it, Naruto added, examining the device with renewed consideration. Which raises questions about intended distribution pattern and why deviation occurred. Perhaps related to your specific compatibility factors, Tamari suggested, analytical mind identifying potential causation patterns. The entity mentioned integration with native dimensional entities, presumably referring to the Nine Tails. Your existing experience balancing multiple consciousnesses creates natural resonance with the dial's function. This interpretation aligned with previous theories while adding coalition perspective validation. Naruto absently traced the dial's surface markings, considering optimal strategic response to accumulated information. Tomorrow I'll begin systematic exploration of remaining transformations. Diversification represents logical preparation for unknown challenges ahead. Controlled testing environment recommended, Kai advised with scientific caution. Each transformation appears to incorporate distinct consciousness integration aspects, with varying knowledge access parameters. Unfamiliar cognitive structures may require adaptation period. The recommendation balanced practical caution against necessary preparation. Acknowledgement th. At power acquisition required responsible implementation rather than impulsive utilization. Naruto nodded agreement, strategic mindset prioritizing thorough understanding over immediate capability demonstration. We'll establish appropriate testing protocols upon returning to controlled territory, he confirmed, diplomatic sensitivity recognizing jurisdictional considerations without requiring explicit acknowledgement. Transformation experimentation within Wind Country borders would create unnecessary political complications despite Temari's presence. Conversation shifted toward practical Vel considerations as night deepened around their camp. Watch rotation established with customary efficiency, each taking responsibility according to optimal alertness periods and specialized detection capabilities. During final watch rotation before dawn, Naruto found himself momentarily alone with his thoughts, Tamari and Kai both resting while he maintained perimeter awareness. The Nexus dial pulsed against his wrist with steady rhythm nearly synchronized with his heartbeat, connection deepening beyond mere physical attachment. The Sphinx knowledge remains partially accessible, Kurama. Observed within shared consciousness space, unusual thoughtfulness coloring mental voice. Integration appears more comprehensive than conventional transformation techniques. I've noticed, Naruto acknowledged internally. Fragments remain. Not complete knowledge, but conceptual frameworks beyond previous understanding. Perspectives that weren't available before transformation. The entity mentioned, integration with native dimensional entities, the Nine Tails continued, focusing on specific communication element with particular interest. Perhaps referring to our existing partnership, rather than merely acknowledging my presence. This perspective introduced intriguing possibility, that the dial's transformations might somehow incorporate Kurama's unique energy signature and consciousness attributes into their manifestation process. The implications extended beyond simple power augmentation into fundamental understanding of how dimensional beings interacted across reality boundaries. Integration rather than parallel existence, Naruto conceptualized, mental model expanding through Sphinx-enhanced perspective capacity. Not separate powers operating independently, but synergistic capabilities incorporating multiple consciousness aspects simultaneously. Precisely, Kurama confirmed, unusual enthusiasm suggesting genuine intellectual interest beyond pragmatic power considerations. Previous transformations accessed my chakra reserves without incorporating consciousness aspects. The dial appears designed specifically for entities accustomed to shared cognitive space. This revelation aligned perfectly with wielder selection anomaly concerns expressed by the coalition entity. If the Nexus dial had been designed for users with specific compatibility attributes, Naruto's Jinchuriki status represented critical qualifying characteristic rather than incidental factor. Dawn approached with characteristic desert subtlety, stars gradually surrendering Dom. Ananse's eastern horizon brightened imperceptibly. As Naruto maintained watch, the Nexus dial's rhythm strengthened momentarily before settling into new pattern, not concerning deviation, but evolutio. Nary adaptation suggesting deepening integration with both its wielder and the native dimensional entity, sharing his consciousness. Whatever challenges awaited at the coordinates identified by the ancient archive, this synergistic development represented significant strategic advantage. The dial hadn't merely chosen Naruto as wielder, it had selected a uniquely qualified individual whose existence G partnership with powerful interdimensional consciousness created natural compatibility with its fundamental function. As his companions stirred with approaching daylight, Naruto contemplated Optima. L transformation exploration sequence once appropriate testing environment established. Each mythological entity offered distinct capabilities and knowledge frameworks, their combined potential extend ing far beyond simple combat application into fundamental reality maintenance functionality. The Sphinx had provided knowledge access and perceptual manipulation. Ryujin offered water control and dimensional boundary interaction. Garuda demonstrated atmospheric mastery and enhanced sensory perception. Each subsequent transformation would likely reveal similarly specialized capabilities designed for specific dimensional maintenance applications. Ready to depart, Tamari questioned as she emerged from temporary shelter, professional efficiency requiring minimal preparation time between waking and operational readiness. Almost, Naruto replied, completing final perimeter assessment before breaking camp. We should reach the Fire Country border by midday if maintaining current pace without environmental complications. Kai joined them moments later, scanner already active as she conducted standard dimensional stability monitoring. Readings show conventional parameters with minor flu. Situation indicators within acceptable variance range. Transit window remains stable for approximately 24 hours before next predicted boundary thinning event. With confirmation established, they commenced final travel segment through transitional terrain between wind and fire countries. The Nexus dial maintained steady rhythm against Naruto's wrist, its presence a constant reminder of responsibilities extending beyond conventional mission parameters into cosmic maintenance function. Whatever anomalies had resulted in his selection as wielder, whatever threat the chronivores represented to dimensional stability, whatever challenges awaited at each identified coordinate, Naruto Uzumaki would face them with characteristic determination tempered by hard-earned wisdom. Not because prophecy demanded it or power enabled it, but because protection extended naturally from local to global to interdimensional when threats escalated accordingly. The border approached steadily, symbolic. Transition between territories representing more than jurisdictional change. Each step carried them further from ancient archive toward next implementation site, continuing journey that had expanded beyond conventional mission parameters into cosmic significance without sacrificing fundamental purpose, protection, balance, and responsible power utilization. Almost there, Tamari observed as recognizable Fire Country forest appeared ahead, transitional scrubland surrendering to familiar deciduous ecosystem. Your territory approaching. The observation contained multiple acknowledgments simultaneously, jurisdictional transition, accompanying responsibility adjustment, and subtle personal recognition that Naruto operated with greater situational comfort within familiar environmental parameters. Thank you for your guidance. He responded, diplomatic courtesy expressing genuine appreciation rather than formulaic protocol adherence. Your continued presence represents significant advantage despite jurisdictional transition. The acknowledgement balanced professional recognition with personal appreciation, diplomatic language conveying multiple meaning layers simultaneously. Temari's expression suggested recognition of both explicit and implicit content, subtle curve of lips indicating reception of communication subtleties beyond literal interpretation. Intervillage cooperation serves multiple beneficial purposes. She replied, maintaining formal language framework while conveying personal investment through subtle intonation patterns. Particularly when addressing threats and sending conventional jurisdictional limitations. As they crossed invisible boundary between wind and fire countries, environmental transition accelerated, desert heat and aridity surrendering to forest humidity and shade with welcome relief. The Nexus dial's rhythm adjusted subtly, responding to changing surroundings with apparent environmental sensitivity. The journey continued beneath familiar forest canopy, conversation increasing naturally as physical comfort improved through temperature moderation and increased moisture availability. Kai participated more actively in environmental assessment, scanner readings expanding to incorporate biological diversity measurements alongside dimensional stability monitoring. Fascinating ecosystem transition indicators, she observed with scientific appreciation. Biodiversity increases exponentially with moisture availability, creating natural boundary demarcation more precise than political borders. The Land of Fire's western territory, IEs maintain several unique ecological zones, Naruto explained, environmental familiarity demonstrating knowledge beyond combat specialization. Transitional regions between major country designation. S often support specialized species adapted to gradient conditions. This casual demonstration of broader knowledge earned appreciative recognition from both companions, acknowledgement that combat proficiency represented merely one aspect of developed intelligence rather than defining characteristic. Conversation expanded naturally into comparative discussion of environmental adaptation patterns across different territories. Professional expertise contributing unique perspective aspects to collaborative knowledge exchange. As midday approached, Naruto detected subtle environmental shift beyond conventional ecological parameters, not threatening disruption, but harmonious adjustment suggesting resonance between the nexus dial and surrounding natural energy patterns. The device's rhythm synchronized briefly with forest pulse, heartbeat of ecosystem functioning beyond individual components. We're approaching naturally occurring dimensional thin point, he observed, Sphinx-enhanced perception identifying subtle reality characteristics invisible to conventional awareness. Not dangerous degradation, but structural characteristic where dimensional boundaries maintain reduced separation under normal conditions. Kai confirmed this assessment with scanner verification, scientific observation supporting intuitive awareness. Dimensional permeability varies naturally across geographical distribution. Some locations maintain consistently thinner boundary characteristics without representing vulnerability or damage. The Land of Fire contains several recognized power convergence points, Tamari contributed. Diplomatic position providing access to cross-jurisdictional information beyond typical shinobi knowledge parameters. Locations where chakra concentrates naturally and UAL phenomena occur with greater frequency. This collaborative knowledge integration demonstrated developing team functionality, individual expertise areas contributing to comprehensive understanding beyond separate capability parameters. Their journey had evolved beyond simple escort mission or investigation task into genuine partnership, each member providing specialized perspective within cooperative framework. As forest density increased toward central fire country regions, their path continued with renewed purpose, understanding of their mission expanding through accumulated knowledge. Practical objectives remained consistent. The Nexus dial maintained steady connection with its wielder, interdimensional responsibility balanced against local partnership development through complementary progression. The dimensional crisis remained primary focus, countermeasure implementation representing urgent necessity rather than theoretical exercise. Yet within this cosmic context, individual connections developed naturally, professional respect evolving toward personal investment through shared purpose and demonstrated competence. Three figures moved steadily through dappled forest light, their journey representing more than physical progression between geographical coordinates. Each step carried them further into understanding of responsibilities extending beyond conventional parameters, protection expanding from village to world to reality itself through natural progression rather than imposed obligation. The Nexus dial pulsed steadily against Naruto's wrist, no longer ion device but integrated component within developing partnership spanning dimensions, species, and consciousness categories. Whatever challenges awaited at coordinates identified by ancient archive, they would face them together, not as wielder and observers, but as collaborative team united by shared purpose transcending individual origin differences. Konoha awaited ahead, first implementation ITE identified beneath familiar Hokage Mountain. The journey continued with steady purpose, forest path leading homeward while mission expanded outward toward cosmic significance, balance maintained rough simultaneous progression along complementary trajectories. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Veiled Knowledge. Konoha welcomed them with deceptive normalcy, streets bustling with ordinary commerce, Academy students practicing shuriken throws in training fields, civilian construction projects proceeding with methodical precision. Nothing in the village's outward appearance suggested cosmic crisis or dimensional instability. Yet Naruto, moving through familiar territory with companions in tow, perceived subtle wrongness beneath quotidian patterns, reality thinned in places where it should remain solid. Chakra flows disrupted by invisible currents from elsewhere. Your village appears remarkably functional considering the circumstances, Kai observed, scanner discreetly monitoring energy fluctuations as they navigated market district crowds. Her assessment carried professional appreciation rather than condescension, recognition of effective adaptation to unprecedented conditions. Most populations experience significant disruption when dimensional barriers first begin degrading. Shinobi societies develop particular resilience against unusual phenomena, Tamari noted, diplomatic awareness evident in her balanced perspective. When your military consists of people who routinely walk on water and breathe fire, citizens develop higher thresholds for accepting strangeness. They said a street corner where a merchant argued with customer about produce pricing while nearby, a Genin team repaired weather damage to apartment complex roofing. Ordinary life continued despite threatening crisis, humanity's remarkable capacity for normalization on full display. The Hokage Tower has been temporarily relocated, Naruto explained as they bypassed the familiar administrative building, instead heading toward newer structure established in Eastern District. After the second dimensional fluctuation event caused structural damage to the original foundation, the relocated administrative center lacked its predecessor's historical gravitas but compensated with pragmatic functionality, reinforced construction incorporating specialized barrier techniques and monitoring systems developed specifically for detecting reality disturbances. Guards acknowledged Naruto with respectful nods, professional assessment extending to his companions with particular focus on Temari's Suna headband. Lady Tsunade is expecting your arrival, the Jonin stationed at Central Security Point informed them, protocol balanced against recognition of mission significance. She's currently meeting with Research Division representatives regarding recent findings. Their timing proved fortuitous. The elevator ascending to Hokage's office contained another visitor whose presence immediately triggered Naruto's full attention. Hinata Hyuga stood with perfect posture, traditional clan robes replaced by specialized researcher attire featuring intricate seal patterns embroidered across reinforced fabric. Her traditional timidity had evolved into quiet confidence, though familiar recognition warmth remained when lavender eyes met his. Naruto-kun, she greeted, honorific persisting despite professional formality. Your return is well timed. The research division made significant breakthroughs regarding dimensional barrier properties this morning. Hinata, he responded, genuine please. You were transcending mission focus momentarily. Years had transformed their relationship from awkward admiration to professional respect grounded in authentic connection. Your expertise with boundary CLS will prove invaluable given our recent findings. Introductions proceeded with diplomatic efficiency, Hinata acknowledging both Tamari and Kai with appropriate protocol adjustments for respective positions. The elevator ascended with subtle smoothness, Konoha's technological adaptation incorporating chakra enhancement within mechanical systems. The Hokage mentioned your expedition discovered ancient records regarding dimensional entities, Hinata noted, conversation balanced between professional information exchange and personal reconnection. My research team identified corresponding CL configurations within Konoha's foundation matrix last week. This revelation expanded mission implications significantly. Foundation matrix, Naruto questioned, strategic assessment immediately integrating new information vectors. The village wasn't constructed on this location by accident, Hinata explained, professional confidence evident in her precise explanation. Our analysis indicates, first Hokage selected this site specifically for its dimensional properties. The entire village incorporates specialized seal network using natural chakra flows to reinforce reality boundaries. The elevator doors opened before further elaboration became possible, revealing Tsunade's temporary office, larger than its predecessor with comprehensive monitoring systems displaying real-time dimension stability data across multiple village sectors. The Hokage herself stood before central display, conversation with white-coated researchers pausing as new arrivals entered. Perfect timing, Tsunade acknowledged. Administrative efficiency immediately evident as she dismissed research staff with rapid instructions. Once privacy established, her attention focused fully on returned expedition team. Your preliminary communication mentioned significant discoveries at the Suna ruins. Details, please. Reporting proceeded with comprehensive thoroughness, Naruto, Kai and Tamari each contributing specialized perspective aspects to collaborative information presentation. The ancient archives revelations regarding chronivores, dimensional maintenance protocols, and the Nexus Dial's purpose info. LDED through detailed description supplemented by Kai's scanner data and Naruto's Sphinx-enhanced translations. Throughout this exposition, Tsunade's expression remained professionally neutral while Hinata absorbed information with researchers' focused attention, occasionally noting particular elements in small journal produced from equipment pouch. The significance of their discoveries became increasingly apparent as narrative reached interdimensional entity encounter and subsequent strategic implications. So these chronivores consume entire dimensions as natural function, Tsunade summarized once primary report concluded. Administrative mind extracting essential elements from complex information. But current consumption patterns have become unbalanced, threatening entire dimensional ecosystem rather than maintaining cosmic recycling process. Correct assessment, Kai confirmed, scientific precision supplementing strategic summary. They're not malevolent entities by conventional definition, but natural cosmic forces operating beyond equilibrium parameters. And the archives identified 3 implementation sites for countermeasure protocols, Tsunade continued, focus shift toward pragmatic response rather than theoretical understanding. One supposedly beneath Hokage Mountain itself. The coordinates align with Eastern Foundation section, Hinata contributed, professional knowledge immediately relevant. The area where our research team identified unusual seal configurations integrated within village structural supports. This correlation validated archive formation while simultaneously raising significant security implications. If specialized dimensional countermeasures had been incorporated into Konoha's founding architecture, historical narratives required substantial revision. First, Hokage's actions suggesting knowledge of cosmic threats beyond conventional historical understanding. We need access to whatever's hidden beneath the mountain, Naruto stated. Leadership naturally emerging without undermining established authority hierarchy. The archive indicated each site contains specific countermeasure implementation protocols activated through corresponding nexus dial transformations. Fortunately, Hinata responded, small smile suggesting satisfaction in research validation. We've already located the access mechanism. My team has been documenting unusual seal configurations throughout village infrastructure for months following initial dimensional disturbances. 3 days ago, we identified what appears to be specialized access protocol incorporated within Hokage Monument Foundation structure. Tsunade's decision required minimal consideration, existential threat transcending conventional security protocols. Take them to the site immediately. Full access authorization granted under my direct authority. Whatever's hidden beneath this village, we need to understand it before dimensional stability degrades further. Implementation proceeded with characteristic Konoha efficiency, administration protocols streamlined through crisis management adaptations developed during previous village-threatening events. Within 30 minutes, their expanded team traversed secure passage through monument maintenance infrastructure, Hinata leading with SEAL specialist confidence through increasingly restricted sections. The Foundation SEAL network extends throughout village substructure, she explained while navigating maintenance tunnels transitioning from modern construction to increasingly ancient stonework. Most component NTS serve conventional stability and security functions, but certain sections incorporate unusual configurations without apparent structural purpose. They descended further beneath village infrastructure into rarely accessed maintenance levels where modern additions gave way entirely to original construction. Massive stone blocks fitted with impossible precision, surfaces inscribed with seal conference figurations distinct from conventional shinobi techniques. These markings share characteristics with those in the Suna archive, Naruto observed, Sphinx-enhanced knowledge persisting at reduced intensity. Similar conceptual framework but different implementation approach, adaptation for specific geographic and dimensional conditions. Kai's scanner confirmed this assessment, scientific instrumentation detecting energy patterns invisible to conventional perception. Dimensional resonance frequency matches archive signature with 89% correlation. Whoever designed these systems shared common tech. HNO logical understanding across implementation sites. The first Hokage's historical records never mentioned interdimensional knowledge, Tamari noted, diplomatic position providing historical context. XT beyond village-specific documentation. This suggests either deliberate information restriction or knowledge transmission through non-documented channels. Hinata paused before particularly massive E-stone doors recessed within foundation bedrock, intricate seal configurations covering entire surface in spiraling patterns that seemed to shift subtly under direct observation. This is the access point we identified. The seal configuration resisted all conventional analysis methods. Chakra applied to activation nodes simply disperses without triggering response mechanisms. Naruto studied the elaborate barrier with multiple perspective integration, Shinobi training analyzing security protocols, Sphinx knowledge assessing dimensional components, and Jinchuriki experience evaluating energy containment parameters simultaneously. The Nexus dial pulsed against his wrist with increasing intensity, response suggesting direct compatibility with the ancient system. It requires specific activation energy signature, he determined. Understanding crystallizing through combined knowledge frameworks. The patterns match Quetzalcoatl configuration in the Nexus dial, Mesoamerican feathered serpent deity associated with knowledge, creation, and boundary maintenance. Kai examined the seal configuration with scientific precision, scanner providing detailed energy analysis. The activation mechanism appears designed specifically for transformation energy signature recognition rather than conventional chakra manipulation. Direct interface compatibility with the dial's functional parameters. Decision required minimal consideration. Implementation site access representing mission-critical objective beyond philosophical concerns regarding transformation consequences. Naruto activated the Nexus dial with practiced motion. Central display cycling to previously unexplored configuration featuring serpentine form adorned with elaborate plumage. The transformation manifested with distinctive characteristics. Neither Ryujin's expansive serpentine form nor Sphinx's hybrid configuration, but synthesis of serpentine flexibility and avian lightness combined with distinctly humanoid consciousness integration. Iridescent feathers replaced hair and emerged along spine and limbs while facial structure incorporated subtle reptilian aspects without sacrificing human expression capacity. Most significantly, knowledge flooded consciousness. Not Sphinx's logical pathways or Ryujin's elemental mastery, but vast historical and dimensional understanding spanning civilizations across multiple reality planes. Languages previously incomprehensible became immediately accessible, histories of worlds beyond conventional perception unfolded with crystal clarity, and mathematical concepts describing dimensional relationships manifested with intuitive accessibility. Quetzalcoatl, Naruto named himself, voice carrying harmonic resonance without Ryujin's overwhelming power, knowledge rather than dominance characterizing this entity's fundamental nature. Creator of knowledge bridges between worlds, guardian of wisdom across dimensional boundaries. The transformation's most remarkable aspect wasn't physical reconfiguration but cognitive expansion, perspective broadening beyond linear temporality into comprehensive understanding spanning multiple reality layers simultaneously. Patterns preview. USLY obscured by limited perception became immediately apparent, connections between seemingly unrelated elements revealing fundamental structural relationships underlying reality itself. Approaching the sealed doors, Naruto extended feathered hand toward central activation node where spiral patterns converged into singular focus point. Knowledge beyond conscious acquisition guided his movements. As fingers traced specific sequence across ancient stone, energy signature resonating with seal configuration at fundamental frequency level. The massive doors responded immediately, not conventional mechanical movement but reality reconfiguration as stone shifted between dimensional states, becoming simultaneously solid and permeable through quantum superposition principles beyond conventional physics. Passage manifested through barrier that remained physically present yet traversable through dimensional frequency alignment. Remarkable implementation of phase shift principles, Kai observed with scientific appreciation. Scanner documenting phenomenon despite obvious limitations in capturing multidimensional event. The doorway exists simultaneously in multiple dimensional states, access able only through specific resonance alignment. Hinata studied the phenomenon with researchers' precise attention, Byakugan activated to observe underlying chakra mechanics. The energy patterns N throughout foundation structure. This isn't isolated system but integrated component within larger dimensional framework incorporated throughout village substructure. Naruto gestured toward the dimensional passage. Quetzalcoatl consciousness providing contextual understanding beyond explicit knowledge. This implementation site contains historical records regarding previous chronivore incursi. On cycles and specific countermeasure protocols applied during each manifestation period. The knowledge was distributed across multiple dimensional anchor points to prevent singular vulnerability. He proceeded through the dimensional doorway, reality shifting subtly around them. Not dramatic transition but gentle phase adjustment as conventional physical parameters temporarily recalibrated to accommodate interdimensional passage. The chamber beyond defied conventional architectural expectations, space expanding beyond apparent structural limitations into repository that could not physical. Why exist within mountain's actual dimensions? Dimensional folding techniques, Kai identified immediately, scanner struggling to process spatial paradox. The repository exists partially outside conventional space-time, utilizing dimensional pocket principles to create expanded storage capacity without corresponding physical footprint. Hanada's Byakugan provided complementary analysis, speciale. Z visual capabilities detecting energy structures invisible to conventional perception. The entire chamber incorporates stabilization matrix using natural chakra flows to maintain dimensional coherence. The system draws environmental energy from surrounding geographical features, presumably why first Hokage selected this specific location for village establishment. The repository's contents justified such extraordinary containment measures, not conventional scrolls or books but knowledge storage systems beyond traditional documentation methodology. Crystalline structures arranged in geometer. IC configurations emanated soft illumination while multidimensional projection systems displayed information through methods transcending conventional visual representation. Historical archives. Naruto identified through Quetzalcoatl's knowledge framework, serpentine body moving with fluid grace among ancient technologies. Records detailing previous chronivore incursion cycles across multiple dimensional regions. This section specifically documents implementation methodologies for boundary reinforcement protocols. The information storage mechanisms responded to his presence, crystalline structures reconfiguring to display relevant data sequences while projection systems adjusted output parameters to accommodate current users' perceptual limitations. History unfolded around them, not hero conventional narrative but immersive experiential projection that conveyed information through multiple sensory channels simultaneously. Images materialized showing previous dimensional crisis points, entire reality planes distorting as chronivore consumption processes disrupted fundamental stability parameters. Civilizations across multiple dimensions implementing coordinated countermeasures through technologies adapted for respective environmental conditions. Dimensional guardians manifesting through various interface mechanisms including devices resembling prehistoric Nexus dial prototypes. Most significantly, patterns emerged demonstrating cyclical nature of incursion events, not random destruction but periodic cosmic function operating through predictable periodicity like natural environmental cycles. Previous successful countermeasure implementations hadn't prevented consumption entirely but redirected process toward sustainable patterns without catastrophic reality disruption. The chronivores aren't conventionally destructive entities, Naruto explained as Quetzalcoatl's understanding translated complex information into accessible framework. They represent natural, cosmic recycling function converting dormant dimensional energy into reusable patterns supporting new reality formation. The crisis occurs when consumption patterns become unbalanced, taking too much too quickly from actively inhabited dimensional regions. Kai studied the historical projections with scientific precision, professional detachment balanced against existential implications. Like natural forest fires that become catastrophic when normal burn patterns are disrupted. The system requires controlled consumption rather than complete prevention. Precisely, Naruto confirmed, serpentine form moving through information displays with intuitive navigation. Previous successful interventions redirected consumption toward uninhabited dimensional regions or accelerated natural dormant cycles in selected areas to create sustainable harvest patterns. This fundamental understanding transformed their strategic approach significantly, not fighting cosmic enemies but rebalancing natural system through targeted intervention. The Nexus dial's purpose clarified further as historical records demonstrated similar devices operating as calibration tools rather than weapons, their transfo machines providing necessary energy signatures to redirect consumption patterns through dimensional acupuncture principles. Hanada navigated toward different information section, researchers into a On identifying relevant data configurations. These records appear to document implementation site distribution methodology, why specific locations were selected for countermeasure installation. The crystalline structures responded to her inquiry, reconfiguring to display geographical mapping across dimensional boundaries. Patterns emerged demonstrating strategic distribution principles. Implement. Asian sites positioned along natural dimensional fault lines where reality barriers maintained reduced thickness under normal conditions. These locations provided natural access points for calibration. Adjustments without requiring artificial barrier disruption. Kona has founded on dimensional confluence point. Naruto observed as mapping display highlighted their current location within larger network. Natural reality thin point where multiple dimensional planes maintain closer proximity than surrounding regions. The first Hokage didn't select this location randomly, he chose specific geographical coordinates with dimensional significance. This revelation carried profound historical implications beyond immediate crisis management. Konoha's founding narrative required substantial revision on if Hashirama Senju had possessed knowledge of interdimensional mechanics and cosmic maintenance requirements. His legendary connection to natural energy systems through Mokudan abilities suggested potential interface capacity beyond conventional chakra manipulation, perhaps even direct communication with dimensional entities similar to those accessed through the Nexus dial. The historical records never mentioned this, Hanada noted. Scholarly precision balanced against evident fascination with historical discovery. Though certain restricted clan archives reference Hashirama's communion with forces beyond shinobi understanding, during village site selection process. Information compartmentalization represents consistent pattern across previous intervention cycles, Naruto explained. Quetzalcoatl's historical knowledge providing contextual framework. Knowledge distribution followed need-to-know principles to prevent potential misapplication of dimensional technologies for purposes beyond maintenance functions. Before further historical exploration became possible, Tamari identified more immediately relevant information section, tactical display showing current dimensional stability parameters across local reality plane. The visualization demonstrated alarming degradation patterns accelerating beyond previous cycle predictions, boundary integrity compromised across multiple geographical regions simultaneously. The consumption pattern is expanding exponentially, she observed, strategic assessment immediately focusing on practical implications rather than historical context. These readings suggest critical boundary failure within weeks rather than months if intervention doesn't occur immediately. Kai confirmed this assessment through scanner correlation with displayed data. Scientific precision validating intuitive interpretation. The degradation rate exceeds theoretical models for natural consumption cycle by approximately 340%. Something's actively accelerating the process beyond normal parameters. This observation aligned with information previously encountered in Suna archive regarding potential deliberate causation factors in boundary degradation patterns. Natural cosmic recycling function had apparently been hijacked or manipulated to create accelerated consumption beyond sustainable parameters, transformation from natural process into existential threat through external interference. Naruto navigated toward implementation protocol section, Quetzalcoatl's knowledge guiding information retrieval with intuitive precision. The repositor. Y responded by materializing specialized interface mechanism. Crystalline structure reconfiguring into dimensional calibration device designed specifically for Nexus dial integration. This is what we came for, he identified. Serpentine form positioning before the mechanism with natural alignment. Konoha's implementation site contains primary calibration system for regional dimensional boundary reinforcement. The protocols require specific energy signature application to re-establish sustainable consumption parameters. The mechanism's design incorporated dedicated interface point clearly intended for direct connection with the Nexus dial, physical configuration matching device dimensions with precision suggesting deliberate compatibility engineering rather than coincidental similarity. Naruto extended transformed arm toward connection point, the dial pulsed with increased intensity, resonance patterns synchronizing between ancient system and modern device. Interface initiated with seamless integration. Dimensional energies flowing between calibration mechanism and Quetzalcoatl transformation in precisely modulated exchange pattern. Knowledge transferred through direct connect. Ion rather than conventional learning process, implementation protocols manifesting directly within consciousness as though always present despite recent acquisition. The experience transcended conventional information processing, understanding unfolding at fundamental conceptual level rather than sequential cognitive integration. Dimensional maintenance principles clarified through experiential knowledge rather than theoretical framework, balanced consumption requirements, sustainable harvest patterns, and reinforcement methodologies becoming intuitively accessible through direct interface rather than abstract comprehension. Most significantly, implementation requirements manifested with precise procedural understanding, not merely what needed accomplishment but exactly how intervention protocols functioned across dimensional boundaries. The calibration process required simultaneous adjustments at multiple implementation sites, coordinated energy signature application creating reinforcement network across dimensional fault lines to redirect consumption patterns toward uninhabited reality sectors. As interface concluded, Naruto withdrew transformed arm from connection point, ancient T calibration system reconfiguring into dormant state while knowledge remained fully integrated within Quetzalcoatl consciousness. The transformation maintained stability despite significant energy exchange, adapting to increased information burden without disrupting fundamental consciousness balance between Naruto's identity and the dimensional entity's perspective. The calibration protocols require synchronized implementation across all three sites identified in the Suna archive, he explained to his companions, translating complex dimensional mathematics into accessible strategic framework. Each location contains specialized reinforcement mechanism calibrated for specific dimensional boundary characteristics in corresponding geographical region. Kai analyzed interface results through scanner readings. Scientific assessment complementing experiential knowledge acquisition. The energy signature transfer appears successful. Quetzalcoatl transformation now contains implementation protocols necessary for proper calibration sequence activation. Did the interface provide timeframe requirements for synchronized activation? Tamari questioned practically, strategic mind immediate. Ely focusing on logistical implementation rather than theoretical understanding. 3 days maximum between initial calibration and final implementation, Naruto confirmed, dimensional mathematics providing precise temporal parameters. Beyond that threshold, system resonance degradation prevents effective synchronization. This operational constraint created significant logistical challenge considering geographical distribution across multiple territories and particular complications regarding temporally displaced implementation site. The Land of Iron location remained theoretically accessible within established timeframe, but temporal displacement affecting Water Country site introduced fundamental complications beyond conventional transportation limitations. Before strategic planning could address these complications, Hinata's Byakugan detected unexpected energy signature change at repository entrance. Something's interfering with the dimensional doorway stability, she reported. Specialized visual capabilities providing early warning beyond conventional detection methods. Multiple chakra signatures approaching through maintenance tunnels with active suppression techniques. Tactical situation shifted immediately from knowledge acquisition to potential threat response. Professional training automatically establishing defensive positioning while maintaining awareness of surroundings containing irreplaceable historical records requiring protection beyond personal safety considerations. 7 distinct signatures, Hinata continued, Byakugan providing comprehensive situational awareness beyond physical limitations. Chakra patterns suggest specialized combat training with unusual modification characteristics, not standard shinobi configurations. Naruto maintain Quetzalcoatl transformation while processing tactical options, serpentine form positioning protectively before repository's central knowledge storage systems. The transformation's combat capabilities remained untested, though inherent knowledge suggested specialization toward information manipulation and dimensional calibration rather than direct confrontation functionality. Secure the historical records, he directed while evaluating defensive possibilities with strategic precision. Whatever they want, preserving this knowledge takes priority over confrontation. Alternative exit options. Hinata immediately assessed structural configuration through Byakugan's penetrative vision, researchers' knowledge of village infrastructure combining with tactical training. Southern Repository. Boundary incorporates secondary dimensional fold connecting to alternative exit point near Hokage Tower sublevel. The passage requires specific activation sequence through seal configuration located beside crystalline matrix. Implementation proceeded with practiced efficiency, team functionality demonstrating natural coordination developed through shared experiences despite recent formation. Kai secured scanner data including critical dimensional stability readings while Tamari positioned herself between approaching threat and repository contents, fan deployed in defensive configuration. All access the secondary exit. Naruto determined, Quetzalcoatl's knowledge providing necessary understanding of dimensional fold activation principles. Hinata, guide Kai toward the seal configuration. Tamari, defensive delay tactics if they breach the entrance before extraction completes. The approaching chakra signatures accelerated their advance, suggesting detection of activity within repos. Atari despite specialized concealment measures. Hinata's Byakugan tracked their movement through maintenance tunnels while guiding Kai toward southern boundary where subtle dimensional distortion indicated fold presence despite physical imperceptibility. Naruto navigated toward indicated location, serpentine form moving with fluid efficiency through information displays without disrupting delicate projection systems. Quetzalcoatl's consciousness provided immediate recognition of dimensional fold characteristics despite concealment techniques rendering the passage invisible to conventional perception. Found it, he confirmed, identifying subtle reality distortion indicating fold presence. The activation requires specific energy signature application rather than mechanical triggering. Before implementation became possible, the repository entrance destabilized completely. Dimensional doorway collapsing under external interference as specialized disruption techniques forced passage reconfiguration. 7 figures entered through destabilized entrance, their appearance confirming non-standard operative classification through immediately apparent modifications. Each intruder display physical characteristics suggesting partial dimensional hybridization, anatomical configurations incorporating elements clearly derived from non-human biological templates, chakra systems modified ITH technological components visible even to conventional perception, and movement patterns demonstrating coordination beyond natural evolutionary development. Their equipment combined advanced technology with specialized sealing techniques, weapons designed specifically for interdimensional entity engagement rather than conventional combat applications. Secure the primary subject, their leader directed. Voice distorted through mechanical modification suggesting vocal apparatus alteration beyond cosmetic enhancement. Secondary targets for information extraction only. Dimensional records priority objectives beyond personnel considerations. Their tactical formation demonstrated specialized training for enclosed space operations, deployment pattern designed specifically to counter traditional shinobi defensive configurations while maintaining optimal coverage for capturing designated objectives. The approach suggested extensive preparation including specific knowledge regarding both repository contents and current occupants' capabilities. Tamari responded immediately with specialized wind technique, not devastating attack but precisely calibrated disruption pattern designed to separate formation components without risking damage to surrounding historical records. The technique's effectiveness demonstrated combat experience beyond village specialization, tactical adaptability. On incorporating environmental protection priorities without sacrificing defensive functionality. The fold requires 20 seconds for complete activation, Naruto informed his companions while in it. Adding dimensional passage reconfiguration, Quetzalcoatl's knowledge guiding precise energy application through transformed appendages. Defensive delay required for extraction completion. Hinata stepped forward without hesitation, positioning between intruders and evacuation point with researchers' equipment pouch already producing specialized tools. Her combat stance reflected years of development beyond traditional Hyuga techniques, modified gentle fist incorporating elements adapted specifically for unconventional threat response rather than traditional clan methodology. "I've got this," she stated with quiet confidence entirely different from childhood hesitation. Hands already forming specialized seal configuration. Boundary reinforcement technique. Dimensional anchor deployment. The technique manifested with unexpected sophistication. Not conventional barrier jutsu but specialized dimensional stabilization method creating localized reality reinforcement. The effect prevented spatial manipulation within affected area, neutralizing dimensional movement capabilities while simultaneously establishing protected operational zone around evacuation point. Kai's scanner immediately identified technique significance. Scientific assessment recognizing implementation beyond conventional chakra application. That's adapted from dimensional stability protocols, she's manipulating. Boundary layer properties at fundamental quantum level. The intruders recognized technique significance with evident alarm, tactical approach immediately adjusting to prioritize Hinata's neutralize it. Ion before completing primary objective acquisition. Their weapons activated with distinctive energy signatures suggesting specialized dimensional disruption functionality, technology design specific. Ally for countering boundary manipulation techniques through targeted frequency interference. Neutralize the Hyuga immediately, their leader commanded, modified physiology enabling movement speed exceeding conventional human limitations. Her boundary techniques threaten extraction parameters beyond acceptable disruption threshold. Before this command found implementation, Tamari intervened WITH secondary wind technique incorporating subtle chakra modification developed through specialized diplomatic security operations. The technique's effect transcended physical disruption into sensory manipulation territory, airborne chakra particles interfering with neural transmission between modified components in the intruder's hybrid physiology. Your cybernetic enhancements have interesting vulnerabilities, she observed with professional detachment masking strategic satisfaction. Particularly the interface points between organic components and dimensional technology. The fold activati. On progressed steadily despite ongoing confrontation, Naruto maintaining precise energy application while monitoring tactical situation through Quetzalcoatl's enhanced perception. The serpentine form provided limited direct combat capability but maintained critical functionality for evacuation implementation while Tamari and Hinata demonstrated complementary defensive specialization. 3. Intrid. Urs broke formation to directly engage Hinata, correctly identifying her boundary technique as primary threat to their operational success. Their coordinated attack pattern demonstrated specialized TR, aiming for countering dojutsu users, approach vectors calculated to exploit traditional Byakugan blind spot while movement patterns incorporated unpredictable acceleration changes to disrupt standard gentle fist tracking methodology. Hinata's response revealed extensive development beyond traditional clan limitations, not merely compensating for known weaknesses but fundamentally reinventing combat. Approach through research-driven innovation. Her movement incorporated fluid adaptability replacing rigid Hyuga stance with dynamic positioning while chakra application demonstrated precision beyond conventional gentle fist parameters. 8 trigrams. Boundary severance, she announced without excessive declaration. Technique name informing allies of implementation methodology rather than intimidating opponents. Her strike pattern targeted specific points on approaching enemies where organic components interfaced with dimensional technology, each precisely calibrated contact disrupting action between modified physiology and enhancing equipment. The technique's effectiveness became immediately apparent as targeted intruders experienced cascading system failures, not conventional raw pathway disruption but specialized interface destabilization rendering technological enhancements temporarily inoperative. Their coordinated attack pattern dissolved into individual compensation at temps as each struggled to maintain combat functionality with suddenly unreliable bodily components. Fold activation at 60% completion, Naruto reported while maintaining energy application sequence. Quetzalcoatl's precision ensuring stable passage formation despite ongoing combat distraction. Extraction protocol viable within 12 seconds. The intruder leader assessed deteriorating tactical situation with evident frustration, modified sensory apparatus providing comprehensive status evaluation beyond conventional battlefield awareness. His response demonstrated command flexibility through immediate tactical adjustment, priority shifting from personnel acquisition to knowledge extraction despite original mission parameters. Initiate repository purge protocol, he ordered remaining subordinates. Specialized equipment already deploying from modified appendages. If extraction proves impossible, denial implementation takes priority. This directive revealed concerning operational philosophy, willingness to destroy irreplaceable historical knowledge rather than allow continued access by opposing forces. The approaching devices incorporated distinctive energy signature, suggesting specialized purge functionality designed specifically for eliminating interdimensional information storage systems through targeted frequency disruption. They're planning to destroy the repository. Kai warned while maintaining position near evacuation point, scanner providing detailed analysis of deployed devices. Those emitters generate specialized degradation field targeting installing information storage at molecular level. The threat to irreplaceable historical records required immediate intervention beyond personal extraction considerations. Naruto made instant tactic. Decision balancing multiple priority objectives simultaneously, evacuation necessity against historical preservation requirements. Maintain fold activation, he directed Hinata with strategic clarity. Quetzalcoatl form already moving toward deployed purge devices with serpentine speed. All neutralize destruction implements before extraction. The transformed state provided unexpected combat advantages despite specialization toward knowledge manipulation rather than confrontation functionality. Quetzalcoatl's serpentine mobility enabled rapid movement through complex environmental configuration, while feathered appendages demonstrated surprising manipulation capability beyond apparent anatomical limitations. Rather than directly engaging device deployers, Naruto targeted the purge emitters themselves. Not through destructive force but specialized energy manipulation, drawing upon Quetzalcoatl's fundamental knowledge affinity. Feathered appendages extended toward nearest device with precise control. Transformed digits manipulating energy configuration through direct interface rather than physical disruption. Your purge methodology contains fundamental conceptual flaw, he info. RMED opponents while systematically reconfiguring device operational parameters, voice maintaining Quetzalcoatl's harmonic resonance despite combat conditions. Attempting information destruction throw. Systems derived from same knowledge source creates recursive vulnerability through pattern recognition principles. The explanation wasn't merely informational but functional component of counter measure implementation. Vocalization generating specific harmonic frequencies that reinforced manual reconfiguration through sympathetic resonance principles. The first purge device deactivated with distinctive tone suggesting fundamental reprogramming rather than simple neutralization, its energy signature transforming from destructive pattern to regenerative configuration. Before remaining devices achieved deployment completion, Tamari implemented secondary defensive technique with characteristic efficiency, not directly targeting opponents but environmental configuration surrounding purge equipment. The wind manipulation created specialized containment vortex incorporating sealing principles developed through Suna's historical focus on containment methodologies, effectively isolating destructive implements within self-sustaining barrier. Your technology relies on specific atmospheric transmission principles, she noted while maintaining technique concentration, professional asses SM. Demonstrating specialized knowledge beyond conventional combat training. Isolation from surrounding environmental medium prevents proper signal propagation between deployment components. The intruder leader recognized intervention effectiveness with visible calculation, modified sensory apparatus providing immediate tactical reassessment beyond emotional response. His decision demonstrated strategic flexibility through priority adjustment. Original objectives abandoned in favor of successful extraction when operational parameters deteriorated beyond acceptable thresholds. Initiate emergency withdrawal. He commanded remaining functional subordinates, specialized retreat formation already implementing despite incomplete mission accomplishment. Data acquisition insufficient but survival parameters require tactical disengagement. This decision timing coincided with dimensional fold activation completion. Naruto's sustained energy application finally establishing stable passage. Configuration between repository and alternative exit location. The passage manifested as subtle reality distortion rather than conventional doorway, spatial folding creating direct connection between physically separated locations through dimensional manipulation rather than physical traversal. Extraction route operational, he announced to companions while maintaining Quetzalcoatl form, serpent. In body positioning to cover retreat path without abandoning defensive position. Priority evacuation sequence with staggered withdrawal to maintain defensive integrity. Implementation proceeded WITH practiced coordination despite lacking previous joint operational experience. Team functionality developing through complementary capability recognition rather than formalized protocol establishment. Kai proceeded through dimensional fold first, scanner data containing critical historical records requiring secured extraction beyond personal safety considerations. Hinata maintained boundary reinforcement technique while adjusting position to permit staged withdrawal, her specialized skill set providing optimal rear-guard functionality through dimensional manipulation capabilities. All main coin passage stability during extraction sequence, she determined with professional confidence, Byakugan monitoring both retreating companions and approaching opponents simultaneously. Tamari implemented final defensive technique before proceeding through dimensional passage, specialized wind manipulation creating sensor disrupting turbulence to prevent accurate tracking of evacuation route energy signature. The technique demonstrated thoughtful adaptation of combat capability toward strategic disengagement rather than direct confrontation, prioritizing successful extraction above engagement continuation. As Naruto prepared final withdrawal sequence, the intruder leader made unexpected tactical adjustment, personal disengagement from main force to implement direct interception attempt despite operational disadvantage. His modified physiology enabled movement exceeding conventional limitations, enhanced musculature and reinforced skeletal structure supporting acceleration beyond human parameters. The Nexus dial cannot leave with you, he stated while approaching with concerning velocity, modified vocal apparatus producing distinctive harmonic patterns suggesting specialized disrupt. Chion attempt targeting Quetzalcoatl's dimensional frequency. Your pattern has been recorded for subsequent acquisition implementation. Rather than engaging directly, Naruto implemented unexpected countermeasure drawing upon Quetzalcoatl's specialized knowledge manipulation capabilities. Instead of physical response or energy projection, he directed specific information sequence toward opponent. Through precisely modulated vocalization, not attack but targeted knowledge packet delivered through optimized transmission methodology. Your dimensional modification incorporates fundamental instability factor through improper frequency harmonization, he explained while transmitting precise mathematical formula describing the problem, voice generating specific vibration pattern that resonated with opponent's modified components. The calculation sequence describing this vulnerability is now part of your enhancement's operational awareness. The information transfer functioned as both tactical distraction and genuine vulnerability notification, knowledge weapon leveraging opponent's own enhancement systems against operational stability. The modified physiology's integration systems atom PTED automatic correction based on received information, creating momentary processing priority conflict between combat function and self-preservation protocols. This brief operational hesitation provided sufficient disengagement opportunity, Naruto's serpentine form withdrawing through dimensional fold while Hinata maintained passage stability from established position. Their coordinated movement demonstrated practiced efficiency despite lacking previous joint extraction experience, complementary capabilities creating effective team functionality through intuitive recognition rather than established protocol. As Hinata prepared final withdrawal, the intruder leader recovered from momentary processing conflict with evident calculation adjustment. Rather than attempting physical interception against established disadvantage, he implemented alternative approach leveraging specialized sensory capabilities toward information acquisition rather than personnel capture. Your boundary technique bears distinct methodological signature, Hyuga researcher, he stated while maintaining safe distance, modified sensory apparatus clearly recording technique parameters for subsequent analysis. The integration of traditional chakra manipulation with dimensional stability principles represents significant development beyond previous capability assessment. Hinata's response demonstrated professional confidence entirely different from childhood hesitation, acknowledgement of recognition without defensive reaction or emotional distraction. Your analysis capacity appears similarly advanced beyond conventional parameters, she replied while maintaining technique concentration, final extraction preparations proceeding without interruption despite conversation continuation. Perhaps whether your enhancement providers have shared complete information regarding long-term integration stability factors. This response contained subtle counterintelligence implementation, suggestion of potential vulnerability without specific information provision, creating uncertainty regarding enhancement reliability without delivering actionable intelligence. The approach demonstrated sophisticated psychological operation capability beyond conventional combat training, researchers' analytical mindset applied toward strategic communication rather than merely technical implementation. Fina L extraction proceeded without further complication, Hinata withdrawing through dimensional fold with practiced precision while maintaining boundary reinforcement until passage completion. The fold lapsed immediately following final traversal, dimensional connection severing with characteristic energy dispersion pattern that obscured tracking signature through multiple frequency shifts across reality spectrum. The alternative exit point materialized in sublevel maintenance area beneath administrative complex, secure location with minimal personnel access providing ideal extraction destinity. On without compromising operational security through public visibility. The team regrouped with practiced efficiency, immediate status assessment proceeding through nonverbal confirmation patterns developed through shared experience. Everyone intact, Naruto confirmed while releasing Quetzalcoatl transformation, returning to human form with characteristic energy dispersion pattern. The transformation's knowledge remained partially accessible despite form reversion, not complete retention but conceptual framework persisting at reduced intensity similar to Sphinx information integration pattern. Those weren't conventional enemies, Tamari observed while securing equipment with practiced motion, professional assessment proceeding immediately following extraction confirmation. Their physiological modifications and tactical approach suggest specialized development program beyond standard shinobi parameters. Dimensional technology integrated with biological enhancement, Kai elaborated. Scanner analysis providing detailed assessment beyond visual observation. Similar modification patterns to chronivore agents encountered at Suna ruins, but significantly advanced implementation methodology suggesting specialized research program rather than field adaptation. Hinata's Byakugan provided complementary analysis through specialized visual capability, researchers' perspective integrating with combat assessment. Their chakra systems showed fundamental modification beyond conventional parameters, not merely enhanced but fundamentally redesigned to accommodate dimensional technology integration at cellular level. These observations suggested concerning development beyond immediate tactical considerations, organized research program specifically focused on dimensional technology integration with apparent access to advanced knowledge sources. The implementation sophistication indicated resources beyond individual operation parameters, suggesting institutional support struck. Chure with significant investment in interdimensional capability development. We need to report to Tsunade immediately, Naruto determined, strategic assessment prioritizing information security above. E-recovery period despite recent energy expenditure through transformation maintenance. Their specific targeting of repository contents suggests intelligence network with awareness of dimensional implementation sites beyond coincidental discovery. Movement toward administrative levels proceeded with continued security awareness, potential pursuit consideration maintaining operational caution despite successful extraction completion. The facility's regular security personnel received them with professional acknowledgement, Naruto's presence providing sufficient authorization without requiring explicit identification verification. Tsunade received their report with characteristic focus, administrative efficiency processing complex information while maintaining strategic perspective beyond immediate tactical concerns. The implications extended beyond specific encounter details into fundamental security considerations regarding dimensional knowledge protection and implementation site integrity. So we have organized opposition with specific knowledge targeting dimensional implementation sites, she summarized once detailed report concluded, leadership mind extracting essential strat. EGIC elements from complex tactical information. Their willingness to destroy historical records rather than permit continued access suggests operational philosophy prioritizing denial above acquisition under certain conditions. Their physiological modifications indicate significant research program beyond individual enhancement application, Hinata added, researchers' perspective providing crucial context beyond combat assessment. The integration methodology suggests specialized knowledge source with comprehensive understanding of dimensional technology principles. Tsunade's expression reflected appropriate concern without counterproductive alarm. Leadership responsibility balancing realistic threat assessment against organizational stability requirements. Did you secure the implementation protocols despite interruption? She questioned practically, focus returning to immediate operational priorities beyond longer-term strategic implications. Yes, Naruto confirmed, fragments of Quetzalcoatl knowledge supporting confident assessment despite transformation conclusion. The interface completed successfully before enemy arrival, The calibration protocols require synchronized implementation across all 3 sites identified in the SUNA archive, with maximum 3-day interval between initial activation and final implementation. This operational constraint created I can't logistical challenge considering remaining sites, geographical distribution and particular complications regarding temporally displaced water country location. Tsunade's administrative mind immediately calculated resource allocation requirements against available personnel capabilities, strategic planning proceeding through practiced efficiency despite unprecedented situation parameters. He Land of Iron location remains accessible within established timeframe through conventional rapid deployment methodology, she determined while formulating preliminary operational framework. However, temporal displacement affecting the water country site introduces fundamental complications beyond standard transportation limitations. This assessment aligned precisely with team's previous strategic evaluation. Operational constraints creating implementation challenges requiring innovative solution methodology beyond conventional mission parameters. Kai's scientific perspective provided IMM-88 contribution toward potential approach development based on interdimensional expertise rather than shinobi tactical traditions. The Nexus dial itself may provide temporal navigation capability when properly calibrated. She suggested scanner data supporting theoretical application beyond previously demonstrated functionality. Several transformations incorporate time manipulation aspects within their mythological frameworks. Specifically, Bakunawa's lunar consumption mythology contains celestial cycle control elements potentially applicable toward temporal navigation implementation. The suggestion introduced promising possibility despite theoretical application uncertainty. Untested capability requiring experimental verification before operational implementation. Naruto examined the dial with thoughtful consideration. Previous transformation experiences providing context for potential functionality expansion beyond demonstrated applications. Each transformation has revealed capabilities beyond initial expectations, he acknowledged while considering implementation requirements. Testing protocol development seems prudent before attempting temporal navigation, particularly RLY given coordination requirements between physically separate implementation sites. Tsunade nodded agreement, leadership perspective recognizing both potential advantage and associated risk factors in equal measure. Proceed with controlled testing protocol development immediately. Hinata, your research team's boundary stability expertise will provide crucial support during capability verification process. Hinata accepted assignment with professional acknowledgement, researcher confidence entirely different from childhood hesitation. My team has established specialized testing facility specifically designed for containing dimensional experimentation effects. The infrastructure should accommodate transformation assessment with appropriate safety parameters. Implementation planning proceeded with practiced efficiency. Administrative systems adapting to unprecedented requirements through flexibility rather than procedural limitation. Resource allocation, personnel assignment, and logistical coordination emerged through collaborative process leveraging specialized expertise across multiple knowledge domains simultaneously. Throughout this strategic development, the Nexus dial maintained steady rhythm against Naruto's wrist, connection deepening beyond mere physical attachment into fundamental partnership. Each transformation experience had expanded understanding while simultaneously raising additional questions regarding the device's true nature and complete functional parameters. The Quetzalcoatl entity's knowledge persistence suggests increasing integration efficiency with each transformation. Kurama observed within shared consciousness space, analytical perspective offering valuable insight beyond human perception limitations. The knowledge retention pattern indicates adaptive interface development rather than static operational parameters. You've noticed too. Naruto acknowledged internally while maintaining participation in external strategic planning. Each transformation leaves more accessible information behind, conceptual frameworks remaining partially available despite form reversion. More significantly, the transformations demonstrate increasing awareness of your specific nature as Jinchuriki. The Nine Tails continued, observation revealing sophisticated analysis beyond initial impression. The Quetzalcoatl form specifically incorporated chakra manipulation techniques compatible with our existing partnership methodology rather than operating through entirely separate energy system. This observation aligned with preview. Indications regarding native dimensional entities, integration referenced by coalition representative during desert encounter. The dial's transformations appeared to adapt specifically to Naruto's unique nature as Jinchuriki, incorporating Kurama's presence as operational advantage rather than incidental complication. As strategic planning continued around him, Naruto maintained partial attent. Ion division between external coordination and internal partnership assessment. Multitasking capability developed through years managing simultaneous consciousness interaction. The upcoming implementat Ion challenges would require optimal functionality across all available capability parameters, dimensional entity integration representing crucial operational component rather than merely additional power source. The meeting concluded with established action plan incorporating multiple parallel development tracks, implementation site security enhancement, transformation testing protocol development, and intelligence gathering regarding enemy organization structure and capabilities. Operational timeline acknowledged critical 3-day synchronization requirement while incorporating necessary PR. Preparation activities within compressed schedule parameters. As team members departed toward respective responsibility areas, Hinata remained momentarily behind, professional purpose balanced against personal connection through subtle positioning adjustment communicating desire for private conversation. Naruto recognized significance through years interpreting her communication patterns, remaining behind while others proceeded toward assigned locations. The research facility requires approximately 2 hours for proper testing protocol configuration, she explained once privacy established. Professional information provision creating natural conversation foundation without requiring awkward transition from official meeting context. Perhaps you'd like to discuss transformation experiences in more detail before formal testing begins. My team would benefit from comprehensive understanding beyond official report parameters. The invitation balanced professional purpose with personal rest through elegant implementation, legitimate operational requirement providing natural context for extended interaction beyond strictly necessary information exchange. Naruto recognized both explicit and implicit content simultaneously. Appreciation extending beyond tactical understanding into genuine connection recognition. I'd appreciate your perspective on the knowledge retention patterns following transformation conclusion. He replied, response acknowledging both professional value and personal interest without requiring artificial separation between interconnected aspects. Particular RLY regarding Quetzalcoatl's information integration methodology compared with previous transformation experiences. This agreement established natural continuation beyond formal meeting parameters without requiring explicit acknowledgement of underlying connection significance. Their movement toward research division proceeded with comfortable familiarity developed through years of evolving relationship, professional collaboration foundations supporting personal connection without compromising either component through imbalanced emphasis. Your transformation descriptions suggest increasing integration efficiency with each implementation, Hinata observed as they navigated administrative complex, researchers' analytical mind processing information with characteristic precision. Particularly interesting is the knowledge retention pattern following form reversion, conceptual frameworks maintaining accessibility despite transformation conclusion. Exactly, Naruto confirmed, genuine appreciation for her immediate understanding without requiring extensive explanation. Each entity seems to leave deliberate information traces behind rather than complete knowledge withdrawal following transformation termination. The pattern suggests intentional teaching methodology rather than incidental information leakage. Hinata considered this assessment with thoughtful attention, researcher perspective analyzing implications beyond surface observation, suggesting the entities themselves maintain agency regarding knowledge transfer rather than merely providing passive power source through transformation process. Have you attempted direct communication with them during untransformed state? The question demonstrated characteristic insightfulness, identifying unexplored possibility logical extension rather than conventional assumption limitation. Naruto acknowledged both the suggestion's merit and his oversight with genuine appreciation rather than defensive reaction. I haven't, he admitted while considering implementation methodology. The communication has remained transformation-specific without conscious attempt at untransformed interaction. The possibility didn't occur to me despite retrospectively obvious potential. Hinata's response contained subtle encouragement without condescension, support rather than criticism characterizing her reaction to acknowledged oversight. New capabilities often require exploration period before optimal utilization methodology emerges, particularly with unprecedented systems operating beyond conventional chakra manipulation parameters. Their conversation continued through research division corridors with natural flow balancing, professional analysis with personal connection, complex topic discussion interspersed with subtle references to shared experiences and mutual understanding developed through years of evolving relationship. The interaction demonstrated fundamental partnership quality transcending romantic potential into genuine connection territory, communication efficiency based on accumulated understanding rather than merely attraction dynamics. The research facility appeared considerably more sophisticated than casual observation might suggest. Ordinary door opening into expanded laboratory space incorporating specialized equipment beyond conventional shinobi technology parameters. Hinata's Team had clearly developed significant infrastructure specifically designed for dimensional boundary research, equipment configuration demonstrating specialized knowledge application beyond traditional village technological limitations. We've been studying dimensional boundary properties since the first fluctuation events, Hinata explained while activating facility systems with practiced efficiency. Initially focusing on defensive applications for village protection, but eventually expanding into fundamental research regarding interdimensional mechanics and potential practical applications beyond security concerns. The facility incorporated multiple specialized testing chambers designed for containing various experimental effects without risking broader environmental contamination. Monitoring systems displayed real-time dimensional stability data across multiple village sectors while specialized equipment measured subtle energy fluctuations beyond conventional detection parameters. His chamber should provide optimal testing environment for transformation assessment, Hinata determined after brief facility inspection, indicating specialized containment area incorporating both physical reinforcement and dimensional stability components. The monitoring systems will document energy signatures and dimensional interaction patterns without risking broader environmental effects from untested transformation capabilities. Quote, preparation proceeded with practiced efficiency, researcher team members configuring specialized equipment while establishing baseline measurements for subsequent comparison against transformation effects. The process demonstrated professional sophistication beyond conventional shinobi mission preparation, scientific methodology applied toward practical ability assessment rather than merely theoretical understanding. As final preparations concluded, Hinata approached with characteristic combination of professional confidence and personal connection. Researcher clipboard balanced against genuine interaction without artificial separation between integrated aspects. Which transformation would you like to test first? The Bakunawa form seems most relevant for potential temporal navigation applications based on mythological framework. The suggestion demonstrated both practical prioritization and personal attentiveness, awareness of operational requirements balanced against genuine interest in expanding understanding beyond minimum necessary parameters. Naruto considered optimal testing sequence with thoughtful attention, previous transformati on experiences providing context for capability prioritization. Bakunawa seems logical starting point given potential temporal applications, he agreed while examining the dial's available configurations. Though systematic assessment of all untested transformations remains important for comprehensive understanding beyond immediate operational requirements. Testing implementation proceeded with collaborative efficiency. Researcher team establishing detailed documentation protocols while Naruto prepared for transformation initiation. The Nexus dial responded with characteristic energy RN as he selected previously unexplored configuration featuring serpentine form with distinctive celestial association indicators, Bakunawa, Filipino cosmic serpent associated with lunar cycle manipulation and gravitational influence. The transformation manifested with unique characteristics distinct from previous serpentine forms, neither Ryujin's elemental mastery nor Quetzalcoatl's knowledge focus, but fundamental cosmic force manipulation specialization. Physical reconfiguration created massive serpentine body featuring distinctive coloration patterns resembling celestial observations, incorporating star-like illumination points arranged in constellation configurations while overall form generated subtle gravitational field affecting surrounding objects. Most significantly, oral perception altered dramatically, conventional linear experience expanding into multiple simultaneous awareness levels operating across different time flow rates simultaneously. Past and future REM, aimed conceptually separate rather than directly accessible, but temporal flow itself became manipulable parameter rather than fixed constant beyond influence consideration. Bakunawa, Naruto named himself. Voice resonating with distinctive harmonic patterns suggesting cosmic scale beyond conventional dimensional limitations. Devourer of moons, manipulator of celestial cycles, controller of gravitational forces across dimensional boundaries. The transformation's capabilities manifested immediately through environmental effects, subtle gravitational field extending from serpentine form affect. Ting equipment and personnel within testing chamber through gentle but noticeable influence. Lighter objects exhibited slight levitation tendency while movement patterns demonstrated subtle adjustment. Requirements to compensate for altered gravitational parameters. Remarkable manipulation of fundamental physical constants, one researcher observed while monitoring equipment displayed dramatic measurement fluctuations across multiple parameters simultaneously. The gravitational field generates localized space-time distortion effects beyond conventional mass-based influence patterns. Hanada studied the transformation with Byakugan-activated, specialized visual capabilities providing detailed analysis beyond conventional observation limitations. The chakra configuration incorporates entirely novel circulation pattern, energy flowing through dimensional interface points rather than traditional pathway system. The distribution suggests deliberate manipulation of fundamental reality properties rather than merely physical force application. This assessment aligned with Naruto's internal experience, Bakunawa's consciousness providing direct manipulation capability regarding fundamental cosmic principles rather than merely enhanced physical attributes or specialized knowledge access. The transformation's primary function centered specifically on celestial cycle influence across dimensional boundaries, with particular emphasis on temporal flow rate adjustment rather than direct time travel implementation. Temporal navigation appears viable through flow rate manipulation rather than direct displacement methodology. He explained while demonstrating controlled gravitational field modulation, serpentine body moving with cosmic grace despite substantial size within limited testing environment. The capability focuses on relative temporal positioning adjustment rather than absolute chronological relocation. This distinction carried significant operational implications. No. Conventional time travel with paradox concerns and causality violation potential, but controlled adjustment of relative temporal flow rates between connected dimensional regions. The methodology created practical implementation possibility for accessing temporally displaced water country implementation site without requiring complete removal from current timestream. So rather than traveling to the past directly, you could create localized temporal field where time flows at different rate relative to surrounding environment. Hanada questioned, researcher mind immediately identifying practical application methodology beyond theoretical capability understanding, essentially synchronizing temporal coordinates between naturally misaligned dimensional regions. Precisely, Naruto confirmed, while maintaining controlled gravitational manipulation, Bakunawa consciousness providing intuitive understanding beyond explicit knowledge acquisition. The technique allows dimensional boundary reversal between temporally misaligned regions without requiring complete chronological displacement from origin timestream. This capability provided viable solution for implementation site synchronization challenge, allowing coordinated activation across all three locations despite temporal displacement affecting water country coordinates. Testing continued with systematic capability assessment. Gravitational manipulation parameters documented through precise measurement while temporal influence effects received careful monitoring through specialized chronometric instrumentation. Throughout extended testing sequence, Hanada maintained professional researcher focus while simultaneously demonstrating genuine personal investment beyond minimum operational requirements. Her questions reveal both scientific precision and intuitive understanding of Naruto's experience within transformed state, recognition of integration complexity beyond mere physical reconfiguration or power acquisition. The consciousness integration pattern appears different from previous transformations, she observed while monitoring distinctive energy signature fluctuations displayed on specialized equipment. The measurement indicates greater synchronization between your baseline chakra pattern and the entity's dimensional frequency. This observation demonstrated characteristic perceptiveness, identifying G subtle pattern evolution invisible to less attentive analysis. Naruto acknowledged assessment accuracy while maintaining transformation concentration, Bakunawa consciousness providing context for integration evolution beyond explicit understanding. Each transformation seems to improve integration efficiency, he confirmed while demonstrating controlled gravitational field manipulation affecting G-specific target objects rather than generalized environmental influence. The entities appear to be learning my particular consciousness structure while simultaneously teaching aspects of their specialized knowledge domains. Hinata recorded this information with characteristic thoroughness, researcher documentation balanced against personal interaction without artificial separation between interconnected aspects, suggesting genuine partnership development rather than merely temporary power borrowing. Have you experienced any conflict between your fundamental identity and the entities, consciousness patterns during integration process? The question addressed crucial concern beyond merely practical capability assessment, genuine interest in his personal experience rather than solely operational functionality. Naruto appreciated both explicit content and underlying care equally, response acknowledging multiple significance levels simultaneously. Nothing resembling conflict or override attempts, he assured while concluding specific capability demonstration sequence. The integration feels collaborative rather than competitive, mutual exploration rather than dominance hierarchy establishment. Similar to Jinchuriki partnership evolution rather than traditional possession dynamic. This comparison earned understanding nod, Hinata's familiarity with his Jinchuriki experience p. Riveting contextual framework for accurate interpretation beyond general description limitations. Her response balanced professional documentation with personal connection through characteristic integration of complementary aspects rather than artificial compartmentalization. Fascinating evolutionary pattern with significant implications beyond immediate operational applications, she noted completing current documentation segment. The developmental trajectory suggests potential long-term partnership opportunities beyond crisis response requirements. Testing continued through systematic capability assessment. Each demonstration documented with scientific precision while practical application possibilities received thoughtful consideration beyond theoretical understanding. The PROCESS balanced rigorous methodology with genuine curiosity, not merely capability verification but comprehensive exploration of transformation's complete functional parameters. As testing sequence neared completion, Naruto maintained Bakunawa form while discussing implementation application with Hinata, practical planning balanced against fundamental understanding development through collaborative exchange rather than hierarchical instruction. Their interaction demonstrated natural partnership quality transcending professional collaboration into genuine connection territory without requiring explicit acknowledgement of underlying relationship significance. The temporal synchronization capabilities should prove sufficient for accessing the water country implementation site despite 40-year displacement. He concluded while preparing transformation conclusion, gravitational field gradually normalizing as energy redistribution initiated. Though practical application will require precise calibration based on exact temporal coordinates rather than generalized adjustment. Hinata nodded understanding while completing final documentation segment, researcher thoroughness balanced against practical implementation consideration. My team can provide necessary chronometric calibration calculations based on historical records establishing precise temporal displacement parameters. The adjustment should achieve synchronization within acceptable margin for implementation protocol requirements. The transformation concluded with characteristic energy dispersion pattern, human form returning through controlled transition rather than abrupt reversion. Unlike previous transformations, Bakunawa's conclusion left significant capability understanding accessible beyond form maintenance, not merely conceptual framework but practical application methodology remaining available despite transformation termination. The knowledge retention increases with each transformation, Kurama observed within shared consciousness. Analytical assessment noting significant pattern development beyond individual instance evaluation. The entities appear to be deliberately teaching rather than merely providing temporary capability access. Agreed. Naruto acknowledged internally while processing accumulated testing data through collaborative review with research team. The integration efficacy NCY improves consistently across transformations, suggesting deliberate developmental pattern rather than static operational parameters. Asterisk. This evolution represented significant advantage beyond IATE crisis response requirements, ongoing capability development rather than merely temporary power access, providing long-term strategic benefit regardless of current dimensional stability challenges. The Nexus dial appeared designed specifically for progressive partnership development rather than simply emergency response implementation, suggesting broader purpose beyond current chronivore containment application. As testing documentation reached completion, Hanada approached with characteristic balance between professional conclusion and personal connection, official responsibility fulfilled. While genuine interaction continued through natural transition rather than arbitrary separation. The data provides comprehensive capability assessment sufficient for operational planning. Would you like to discuss implementation strategy over dinner? The calculations will require several hours for completion regardless of immediate review status. The invitation demonstrated elegant integration between professional purpose and personal connection, legitimate operational requirement providing natural context for extended interaction beyond strictly necessary information exchange. Naruto recog. Nized and appreciated this characteristic approach, response acknowledging multiple significance levels simultaneously. I'd appreciate continuing our discussion, he agreed with genuine enthusiasm. Balanced against appropriate professional context, particularly regarding optimal transformation sequence for coordinated implementation across all 3 sites. Your perspective would prove valuable. Ivan research experience with dimensional boundary properties. This acceptance established natural continuation beyond formal testing parameters without requiring explicit acknowledgement of underlying personal significance. Their movement toward village proper proceeded with comfortable familiarity, professional collaboration foundation supporting personal connection without compromising either component through imbalanced emphasis. As evening settled across Konoha, their conversation expanded beyond immediate operational requirements into broader discussion regarding dimensional mechanics, transformation experiences, and future research possibilities beyond current crisis resolution. The interaction demonstrated fundamental compatibility transcending professional collaboration into genuine partnership territory, communication efficiency based on accumulated understanding rather than merely attraction dynamics. Throughout this extended interaction, the Nexus dial maintained steady YTHM against Naruto's wrist, connection deepening beyond mere physical attachment into fundamental partnership. Each transformation experience had expanded understanding while simultaneously strengthening integration between wielder and dimensional entities, partnership development progressing through mutual exploration rather than unilateral power utilization. Whatever challenges awaited at remaining implementation sites, whatever opposition emerged from dimensional technology-enhanced adversaries, whatever complications arose through temporal displacement and geographical distribution, the foundation established through collaborative understanding development would provide crucial support structure for successful mission completion beyond merely tactical advantage or power application. Dimensional crisis remained primary concern, responsibility extending beyond conventional mission parameters into fundamental reality preservation territory. Yet within this cosmic context, UAL connections developed naturally, professional respect evolving toward personal investment through shared purpose and genuine understanding beyond surface interaction or temporary alignment. As stars emerged above Konoha, their conversation continued with natural rhythm balancing multiple significance levels simultaneously. Dimensional crisis response planning, transformation capability understanding, research methodology development, and personal connection strengthening through integrated interaction rather than compartmentalized exchange. The veiled knowledge revealed beneath Hokage Mount Toin had provided crucial implementation protocols necessary for dimensional boundary reinforcement. The enemy organization had demonstrated concerning capability development specifically targeting interdimensional information sources. The transformation testing had verified viability for temporal synchronization necessary for coordinated implementation across all identified sites. Yet perhaps most significantly, the day's experiences had revealed deeper connection possibilities beyond immediate crisis response requirements, partnerships developing across multiple relationship categories simultaneously through genuine understanding rather than merely pragmatic alignment or temporary cooperation. Whatever cosmic significance the dimensional crisis represented, the human connections forming through response development carried their own importance beyond merely practical functionality or strategic advantage. The Nexus dial pulsed steadily against Naruto's wrist, its rhythm synchronized with his heartbeat in perfect harmony rather than merely parallel operation. The knowledge acquired through each transformation remained increasingly accessible, understanding deepening with each XP. Ryan's while integration efficiency improved through continuous development rather than static implementation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges through continued mission progression toward remaining implementation sites. The dimensional crisis would require coordinated response across multiple territories despite geographical distribution and temporal displacement complications. The enemy organization would likely attempt additional intervention beyond initial repository incursion attempt. Yet tonight, conversation flowed naturally between two people whose connection transcended prophesio. Null collaboration into genuine partnership territory, understanding developed through years of evolving relationship providing foundation for current interaction beyond merely crisis-driven alignment or temporary cooperation. Within cosmic crisis context, human connection maintained fundamental significance beyond practical functionality or strategic advantage, reality preservation extending from physical dimension into personal relationship territory through natural extension rather than artificial separation. The veiled knowledge had been revealed, implementation pathway established, opposition identified, and capability verified. Tomorrow would continue mission progression toward ultimate resolution, but tonight allowed momentary appreciation for connections formed through shared purpose and genuine understanding, cosmic significance balanced against personal meaning through natural integration rather than hierarchical prioritization. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.